Hello and welcome to Donington Park for the first race of the 2025 season, the 33rd season of British GT. And a man who's joining me, who's been here for every single one of those seasons, is David Addison. Start of a new season, always very exciting, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I should point out the first season I commentated, it was from my pram, but this year is another amazing year. It's another outstanding grid. You know, we've got more factory drivers coming in across McLaren and Porsche and Mercedes. That's only in GT3. GT4, a bit smaller numerically, but the quality is there. Trying to pick a winner for a race, never mind a championship, is well nigh impossible at this stage.
Yeah, we've discussed it a few times. Who are the movers and shakers, the ones to watch? And I know you could stick a pin in many of these drivers, but there are some fantastic partnerships.
Yeah, I mean, one name that stands out, because he's new to British GT, is Sven Muller, Porsche factory driver. He's going to do the bulk of the season for Team Parker Racing. Now, this is a guy that is plug and play. Whatever Porsche, whatever championship you put him in, he's a winner. So, you know, you add him to this long, long list of people to watch.
Long list of people to watch, and we'll be across it over the course of the season. As I say, Adam's here for his 33rd season in what is the 33rd season of the British GT. A man who is new to this new position, and that is the comms position, is James Baldwin, but not new to racing. Gamer to racing driver, gold medal winner at Motorsport Games, and a race winner in British GT as well, but a very different role for you. Welcome.
Cheers for having me. I'm looking forward to it. It's good. It's good to be back in a paddock, first of all. Slightly different capacity, obviously not driving, but on the other side of the fence, talking about it. Hopefully, you know, shining a light on what it's like to drive these GT cars, these rapid GT cars, because I've been doing a bit of that in these last couple of years. So, and I can relate it back to the simulator as well, which is obviously very relatable for a lot of people watching at home. So, I'm looking forward to it.
It's a new position for you. Looking forward to it, in particular, the fact that you're getting to work with David Addison, your hero.
My hero. Yeah, he's the GOAT in the commentary booth, isn't he? So that should be good. Yeah.
He certainly is the GOAT. You two both disappear off to the comms box because we're about to get ready for this, the opening race of the season. A lot of movers and shakers even, and Tom Hornsby is here to tell us more.
2025's British GT Championship begins right here at Donington, where reigning champions, series regulars and new contenders are hoping to make a flying start to 2025.
But perhaps the biggest news concerns a driver that isn't here. Reigning GT3 champion Rob Collard, who's been forced to miss round one. Matt Topham fills in alongside Hugo Cook in the number 1 Lamborghini. Barwell teammates Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell won here last year and will be amongst the favourites to do so again. But they face serious opposition from two unchanged combinations, 2C's Kevin Zay and Maximilian Goetz, and Giacomo Petrobelli and Johnny Adam at Blackthorn.
5 entries make McLaren GT3's best represented manufacturer, and its top contender is likely to be this 720S. The optimum example shared by factory star Marvin Kirchhoffer and 2-time Donington winner Morgan Tilbrook.
Team Parker's Porsche also features works talent in the shape of another German, Sven Muller, and Nick Jones, who won here with Bentley back in 2020.
We have to wait until Silverstone to see the Ferrari, but there is a new GT3 manufacturer this weekend. After 9 years of waiting, Honda's NSX finally makes its British GT bow, along with fellow debutants Bridger Motorsport, Luke Garlick and Johnny Ip.
Unlike his GT3 counterpart, GT4's reigning champion Jack Brown is here this weekend and in the familiar surroundings of Optimum's Artura. However, history is not on his side. No driver has ever won 2 GT4 titles.
Standing in his way are several significant Pro-Am contenders, and none more so than Century's Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson, who won twice last year. They also have this, the new M4 Evo, at their disposal.
Mahiki, meanwhile, has 3 Lotus Emiras, one of which features 2018 champion Jack Mitchell. Team Parker will also be a threat thanks to Phil Keane, whose record 21 British GT wins across all classes do not include a GT4 victory.
As well as the regular season, Donington also kicks off the inaugural Endurance Cup campaign, a championship within a championship for race-by-race GT4 entries. 4 cars, that's Team Parker, MKH Racing, Rob Boston Racing and Jolt Racing contest the opener. One small development over the winter involves the extra 25 kilos of GT4 Silver Class ballast, which is now only carried during the race.
We can therefore expect the likes of Luca Hopkinson and Harry George, Brendan Templeton and Chris Salkeld, and Aidan Neat and Josh Miller to be up near the sharp end in qualifying.
British GT racing has shifted into overdrive this year, with new cars and plenty of returning champions fighting for the crown. And with SRO celebrating its 30th anniversary, the engines of motorsport will be roaring louder than ever. British GT is leading the charge in the UK, whilst its seasoned international sibling GT World Challenge has been lighting up the global racing scene. It all kicked off at Bathurst in Australia for the 12-hour Super Enduro race. Then across the Pacific Ocean to the Sonoma Raceway for GT World Challenge America, which was a masterclass in strategy and speed. With the track nestled by the San Francisco Bay, Sonoma proved to be a perfect stage for some high-speed wheel-to-wheel action. This weekend sees Australia's GT World Challenge race at the iconic Phillip Island circuit near Melbourne. The track's fast turns and elevation changes will provide a proper spectacle for fans down under as the cars go flat strap all the way to the checkered flag. But that's just for starters. Next weekend, GT World Challenge Asia is at Sepang, and the 6 hours of Paul Ricard in the south of France kicks off GT World Challenge Europe. Sepang, known for its high-speed straights and punishing corners, will test drivers' endurance and tactical finesse in the humid Malaysian heat. While the 6 hours of Paul Ricard promises non-stop action with a full grid of 59 GT cars going all out in the French sunshine. With plenty of SRO servings, this global GT racing revolution is set to keep racing fans on the edge of their seats. Who's going to seize the next podium? Only time will tell. The sun is shining, the grid is a busy one. British GT is back. Welcome everybody to Donington Park and the full 2.5 mile Grand Prix circuit as we get set for a proper endurance race to kick off the season. It is 2 hours of drama that we have in store, and as we were suggesting a little while ago, it is very difficult indeed to predict a winner, be it in GT3 or GT4, where of course, if you're a silver-silver pairing, there's an extra 24 seconds to serve in the pit stops, and we'll worry about those mid-race. James Baldwin, we've already touched on it, but it is a really quality entry for this opening round.
It is, and you know, it's British GT. It's not British weather because it's really nice. So, but it's going to be very unpredictable today. You've got some very close sort of grids in GT3 and GT4. Some really good drivers on the grid as well. Some of the factory guys on them. So it's going to be a good race.
Pit lane open, as you see. The cars are making their way around to the grid, and they've had the warm-up session this morning. Actually, he says finding wood to touch. We haven't had too many dramas this weekend. Mark Smith had an off in free practice 2 or pre-qualifying and did some damage to the floor. Mike Price had a spin into the gravel in that session as well. And the Mahiki Lotus team rather fell foul of the regulations by breaching Parc Fermé regulations. So although the cars are going to start, the Lotus from the rear of the grid, they lost the GT4 pole position. As I say, there was this breach of Parc Fermé regulations. So number 84, Aidan Neate, Josh Miller's car, quickest in GT4 yesterday. Now it's going to start on the penultimate row. But actually in a 2-hour race, it's not the end of the world.
It's not when you've got the pace they've got. You know, they clearly showed they were the quickest GT4 yesterday, getting pole before the disqualification. And you know, 2 hours is a long time. If it's not a crazy race, they still can come back into it. So they have a chance for sure, even from the back.
And on the subject of GT4, just also to raise the fact that we have the Endurance Cup. So that's a championship within the championship, if you like, based around 4 endurance races. The 2 Doningtons, Spa and Silverstone, where we go to next for 3 hours of racing. And the reigning GT4 champion, Jack Brown's car, you've just seen heading out on track with Mark Warren doing the opening stint. Well, fans are ready, teams are ready, cars are getting themselves round to the grid. With the pit lane having just opened, there's a bit of time yet for them all to get there. Bryn Lucas will be down on the grid as well, and has the opportunity to have a word with 1 or 2 drivers before we go racing for the first time this season, Bryn.
Yeah, thanks very much there. This is always very exciting, isn't it, here on the grid when the cars are making their way around. And Maxi Gertz has joined us. It's great to see you here with Kevin Say. And I was chatting to Kevin earlier on, just saying, look, you must be looking at this thinking, the championship, you are contenders. And he said, oh, it's a bit early to say that right now. But you are, aren't you?
Yeah, so after last season we had a good pace, we had good races, we had race wins, we had pole positions, but we didn't bring it home in the end. So we were in some stages a bit unlucky, and we are back, Kevin, me, myself and the team, and we try to make it better. Of course, we know we have some pace, as you can see, first row in our hands, so now we don't make stupid mistakes, just bring it home. Doesn't matter on which place, points are very important for championship, so let's try.
With that in mind then, when you start off on a brand new season here at Donington Park, we've seen over the years just how tricky it can be down to Redgate on the start and on the rolling start. It is staying free of everybody. Kevin is used to this now, he's been doing it a fair bit. But when we talk about AMs, well, you're only as good as your AM, aren't you?
Yeah, very good. I mean, he's one of the quickest ones. He put the car in P2 yesterday in quali. Charles was a bit quicker, a bit not, he was quicker, but he did a great job. And I know that Kevin does a great job. For sure, last season here, turn 1, we were out of the race, so you can't believe how often we watched it again to analyze it, to make it better today.
Wind has been a bit of a topic among the drivers here, the gusty winds around Donington Park. Sometimes you go into the braking zone and there's a headwind and sometimes there's a tailwind. It seems to be changing a lot. What's it like out there for you today? It seems to have dropped.
Yeah, so it's like an airplane, just opposite. We get some downforce, not lifting up. In the end, you feel it, of course, for sure. The wind went a little bit less, but still in the race car, it's super light, very sensitive, and you feel it. So let's see. In the moment, it's less wind than in the past days. It plays maybe in our hands. So yeah, let's see. But it's for everybody the same, you know. So yeah, let's keep focusing on the start, to have a good one, to come back out of the first lap, and then we see.
Go and get in position so when Kevin's here you can give him all the moral support he needs. Thanks very much then to Maxi. Thanks Maxi, wish you all the best. And the drivers in the cars are coming down right now, but we'll grab some GT3 drivers, some more GT3 drivers in the next few minutes. But right now, back to you, Adders.
Bryn, thanks. Yeah, Maxi Goetz, one of those plug-and-play manufacturer factory drivers for Mercedes AMG. Every week, different circuit, different team maybe, but the same car. He knows that Mercedes AMG GT3 inside out.
Inside out, absolutely, and that's the advantage the factory guys have, is they know these cars inside out. So it's one less thing they have to think about, and they can drive naturally, which is how you get the most out of yourself. So, yeah.
Now, thinking Mercedes, 2C's Motorsport has got a brace of cars. The pole car, Charles Dawson and Cian Jewis, really impressive yesterday. Pole position based not on one driver's time, but two. You aggregate the times. Charles Dawson was a real gun in his session. And Cian Jewis, good to have him back in GT racing after a season on the sidelines, really, last year. Cian Jewis is with Bryn on the grid.
Yeah, he certainly is. And you mentioned Charles Dawson there. What a fantastic debut for him in GT3, in British GT3. And Cian, when you got in the car, it was a great advantage. I think 7/10 yesterday in qualifying.
Yeah, he done a stellar job. It put me in, took a lot of pressure off of me going into Q2. I just know, we knew the car was underneath us. We just need to put the lap together, which is what we've done. And yeah, we now find ourselves on pole.
He's very used to the GT4 car, Charles, and he comes into this one here and he's got the slightly different challenge now of being the quicker of the two sorts of cars out on the grid. So he's going to be catching GT4s at a rapid rate and having to deal with that. It's a slightly different thing he's going to have to get his head round.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's a lot of changes this year, but he's put in so much effort. You know, he really does deserve the result yesterday. He's put in so much work behind the scenes as well. So yeah, let's see what it brings.
See what it brings. We wish you all the best of luck. Let's carry on for a little walk there and see who else we've got. I'd like to grab Sandy Mitchell because perennial championship contender, isn't he? He's always in amongst it. And here he is right now, just fiddling with a baseball cap. He's getting his head around this gear as well. Sandy, last season we were so impressed with what your teammate did in the car. We know you're not running a full season for yourself next to him, but how well can you do as a partnership?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I mean, you know, British GT always seems to get more and more competitive, and yeah, it's going to be a good fight throughout the season. But we're started off on the front foot again. You know, starting here in P3, we're right up the sharp end. So yeah, we'll be looking forward rather than behind, hopefully. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Always got to see how it plays out, but as we say, you guys have got to be contenders. I just want to quickly grab Rob Collard. Thanks very much, Sandy. Wish you all the very best. Rob is here, arm in a sling, and this is the reason why you're not in the car, I'm guessing, Rob?
Yes, yeah, I had a surgery 10 days ago, so it's very, very unfortunate for the timing for the team. Absolutely gutted not to be at race 1.
Yeah, well, we're gutted that you're not here, but you'll be back very soon, we hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Hoping to be back for Silverstone, so go back to the hospital next week, and if it all goes well, then start the rehab and should be out for Silverstone.
Best of luck, Rob. Thanks very much for a quick chat there. More GT3 drivers back here, as you can see. Really, really impressive lineup. Johnny Adam just one further back on the grid as well. He starts in 5th place there. It's going to be very exciting to see what happens in GT3. I'm going to relocate to GT4 though and grab some words from those drivers. Right now though, back to you, David.
Bryn, thanks. Yeah, real frustration, James, this for Rob Collard. You know, his car's on the grid, he's here, but because of this recent medical operation, he can't race and he's losing points straight away.
Indeed, yeah, and it's a fundamental, there's no way you can drive with that sort of injury. So, and I know the frustration sitting on the sidelines watching GT cars go round, but to be fair, at least I'm here with you, so it's not too bad.
Let me just check my sympathy app for you. No, it's not working. There's the Honda that Tom Hornsby was talking about earlier. Chin Ching Ip, the start driver. Remember, it's 2 drivers per car. The pit window, I should also just quickly mention, is slightly staggered. It's different for the GT4 cars than GT3, just so the pit lane doesn't become completely round of cars. So if you're in GT4, you've got to pit between 58 and 70 minutes. 70 is the maximum the start driver can do, 58 the minimum. And in GT3, 62 to 70 minutes. That's the window. So it's going to get busy, of course, and the teams will try to get on with their neighbour, really, to make sure there's space alongside. Marvin Kirchhofer is going to be a man to watch in stint 2. He shares with double Donington winner Morgan Tilbrook, who is another very quick bronze driver.
Indeed, and it's interesting what Bryn said earlier about the wind speed. I mean, as a driver, it makes such a difference. So it's going to be key that the engineers tell the drivers what direction is that wind speed and how high is it, basically. Because if it is a tailwind going into turn 1, you're going to have to get on the brakes 10, 20 metres earlier. Otherwise, it's going to catch you out.
Now, last year's GT4 champion, Jack Brown, back for another season. New co-driver this year, Mark Warren, joins him with the McLaren, coming out of the Optimum stable. Let's hear from Jack. Bryn's caught up with him on the grid.
No driver has ever won 2 GT4s, Jack, but the pressure is on you, and you start in a very, very good position with Mark.
Yeah, I think we did a great job in quali. We're not really looking, we're not putting that pressure on us right now for winning it as at round 1, but it's certainly looking like a great start to the year for us.
What does Mark bring to the team then? Because you've stayed with Optimum for a while now.
Yeah, I mean it's been a very exciting. First couple of test days with Mark, it brings a lot to the he brings a lot to the table. He's a very quick and we click very well. And he's a quick learner. He's not scared of the car, which is why I chose to do it with him, and this is why we're together now. So
very best of luck. Thanks very much there to Jack, and starting in a very good position, and also being pro-am when those around them, the Silvers around them, have got that extra time in the pit lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Charlie Robertson here. Let's dive through and grab you, Charlie, because you and Ravi, well, when we're talking about championship contenders, GT4, your names are ones we mention a fair bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a strong winter campaign, so we've done everything we can to be ready for the year. But we know this is a long season, you've got to stay out of trouble. So first round, let's get some solid points on the board and see where we pop out.
Is that how you approach it then? I mean, every single round you need to pocket some points, but every single round has a knock-on when it comes down to what happens in the pit stops.
Yeah, we try not to think about that too much because you can't plan too far ahead. We always think, if the wind's on, take it. If it's not, bag some points. So yeah, we're going to try and stay out of trouble and do the best we can.
Ravi had a fantastic season last season, had a big smash as well at one point and managed to come through it as well. So the car, it's been a bit of a different car for you, and a change in BOP as well.
Yeah, we're in a good place. Ravi did a stellar job yesterday in qualifying. That's his best qualifying he's ever done. So to put us P4 on the grid, we know we have a good race car. So really, yeah, he's got to hand it over to me at half-time, see how we pop out, and I'm going to push on and try to do the best job I can.
Very best of luck. You must be cold. I'm not sure how you're cold. It's boiling out here. There you go. But he's wearing the biggest coat. It looks like Arsene Wenger on the side of the pitch for Arsenal back in the day. Let's just jump over here as well, because we're looking right now at Phil Keane in a GT4 with John Curry. Phil, it's great to see you back on the grid. Full season GT4. It's a step for you, and an interesting step for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good year, and to drive with John, I'm looking forward to that. And he's making great progress, and you never know. Hopefully, we'll progress over the year and move up next year.
Is that the idea? Move up to GT3 next year?
Well, you never know. See how John gets on, see how we get on, and we can go from there.
Got your eye on the championship for 2026 and the winningest driver at 26. Your innate ability to jump between different sorts of cars is something that stands you above many others.
Well, I don't know. I think there's lots of pro drivers who can jump into any car and be quick. I'm very lucky that I get to drive many different cars, which helps me a lot.
When you look at your teammate, what are you looking for in your teammate to do, particularly, well, not just particularly at Donington, but what are you hoping to do over the course of the season? How are you helping them improve?
Well, I think first of all, we just start, bit by bit. Every session's a learning curve for John. This is his first year, proper year in British, and it's very different to, obviously, GT Cup. I think the competition's a lot higher, so we're just going to, even though it's a race, treat it as a bit of a practice session, just keep moving forward, and if you make a mistake, regroup, and then try and learn as much as we can moving forward.
For yourself, a full season in this, it must be nice for you to start the season knowing you're going to end the season here at Donington Park as well.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I say, new challenge for me as well. Team Parker, John, they're a great team, great bunch of people, so I'm really looking forward to it, and just glad to be back on the grid in British GT.
We're glad to have you and wish you all the very best of luck. Thanks very much there to Phil. And that is it for our very brief grid walk here. We've been up a fair bit. We haven't been as far as Mahiki because they're starting right at the very, very back of the grid. Adders, I'll let you explain that one, but we are ready to go here for the season opener at Donington Park.
Bryn, thank you very much. Yes, it's all to do with that breach of Parc Fermé regulations for Mahiki. Let's, James, just go back to that Phil Keane, John Curry Mercedes. Phil Keane, hugely experienced. John Curry, pretty inexperienced. What do they do in that situation? Does Phil Keane let John Curry set the car up for him? Does he have an input in how to set it up? Does he give John Curry as much track time as possible in the practice sessions? You know, how do you go about bringing an AM up to speed?
For sure, it's a different type of racing. If you're in a pro lineup with other pro drivers exchanging tenths of a second, it's a very different skill set to having a pro-am combination. So I think the key with pro-am is, can you coach that AM to get quicker? Because there's more time to gain from him than there is being a couple of tenths quicker yourself. So being a good coach, being able to teach that person, you know, how to be quicker, how to be more consistent, how to nail the pit stops. There's so much to GT racing. So yeah, that's, I mean, Phil's very good at that, isn't he? So yeah.
One to watch. We understand number 17 McLaren, which is the car of Harry George and Luca Hopkinson. Harry George at the wheel stopped and restarted on its lap to the grid, and its start procedure is under investigation. I'm not suggesting it's going to be penalised, it is just being looked at. The grid is clear then of all the engineers at the 1 minute board. They fire up the engines, they leave the grid. Thumbs up from the championship technical team on the grid to say, yeah, everyone is good to go. The drivers then in a moment will set off behind the Lotus safety car, driven once more this year by Formula Ford racer Lorna Vickers. Peter Daly, her partner, is the race director, and he will stare at his bank of monitors and his CCTV screens and the timing data and say, right, we can have a green flag, we are good to go. And then for 2 hours, he's the man in charge of the orchestra from race control. But there you have Charles Dawson heading the cars down towards Redgate. 2Cs Motorsport locking out the front of the grid. Charles Dawson may be new to GT3, but he was mighty impressive in qualifying yesterday. The cars will swing their way through Redgate and then onto the top of the Craner curves. In terms of the class pole positions, out of the Endurance Cup, the silvers went the way of Rob Boston Racing, Pro-Am to Team Parker Racing, silver in GT4 to Optimum, outright Pro-Am GT4 to the number 90 Optimum car, silver Am in GT3 to Beach Team, and the outright Pro-Am and overall pole 2Cs Motorsport. Let's look at the grid and the start drivers. It's Charles Dawson that starts from pole position for 2Cs. Kevin Say in the sister car, a rather more energetically liveried car on the outside of the front row. Alex Martin starts third for Barwell. Morgan Tilbrook's McLaren alongside. Then it's Giacomo Petrobelli and Simon Orange for grid position 6 ahead of Richard Neary. 7th, Matt Topham subs for Rob Collard and goes from 8th ahead of Mark Smith and Nick Jones, the Porsche. 10th on the grid ahead of Mike Price, new to McLaren. Andrew Howard is going to go from 12th. 13th, Chun It in the Honda, and then the returning Andre Borodin rounds out GT3. Mark Warren starts on pole now in GT4 with the penalties applied to Mahiki. Alongside him is Luca Hopkinson. Then you've got Ed McDermott hoping for better fortune this year, and Ravi Ramyeed ahead of John Curry. And then Jamie Orton in the Rob Boston Racing Porsche Cayman. Newcomer Brandon Templeton next. Peter Montague moves up from Britcar alongside him. Rupert Williams, new to British GT from the GT Cup. And then the Lotuses. Aidan Neat in the car that should have been on class pole, starting 24th, ahead of Stephen Lake, the man behind Mahiki Racing. It's his team. And Joe Wheeler, who was a winner in the McLaren Trophy last year, he rounds out the 26-strong grid. Of course, normally, opening round, Alton Park, Easter weekend, and last year, not exactly nice weather. It was a rather tough start to the season, let's say. This year, the decision taken to bring the cars to a different sort of circuit and an endurance race as well, to give everybody lots of track time, to get them, if you like, up to speed for the, not just weekend, but the championship to come, rather than doing 2 one-hour races that were so interrupted on a pretty narrow and tight and demanding circuit like Alton last year. So we're about to see if that plan of shifting circuits for the opening round really works. We know that Donington can produce drama, no question about it, but this promises to be a cracking championship season. And chapter 1 of the story is about to be written. The lights on red on the gantry will be changed in a moment, and then British GT 2025 will be go. It is blast off, and a good start made by Charles Dawson. Kevin Say tries to move across and get the line for the corners up the inside line. Dives Alex Martin, has a cheeky look. That didn't work. Charles Dawson leaves the door slightly ajar, if not open, as the cars go onto the top of the Craner curves for the first time. Dawson bolts in the lead. He's getting away. Up to second place, Alex Martin. Kevin Say hung out to dry a bit on the outside line. He's down to third. Morgan Tilbrook fourth, but a good start by Dawson.
Yeah, that's the start he wanted to get. We know if he got through turn 1 clean, he's got the pace to run away, in theory, looking at the qualifying times yesterday. So, yeah, clean start for Dawson.
Matt Topham's on the move in number 1, Lamborghini, up alongside the black and pink McLaren and Mark Smith, who fights back. Look there in the background on the inside line. Retakes the place. What's going on in GT4? It is number 90, Mark Warren, in the lead. You can see already the difference in pace between GT3 and GT4, how it's 2 distinct races, 2 distinct packs already.
8 seconds of lap difference, you know, it's going to be, what, 10 laps, and then they'll be lapping each other. So, yeah, that's when it's going to get a bit crazy.
To say the least. Out of the S's, they come for the first time. Giacomo Petrovelli, number 7, Aston Martin, bouncing over the curb. Richard Neary likewise. Nick Jones goes through in the Porsche. Andrew Howard in the Aston goes by. Mark Warren doing a really good job in the opening stages to get away from the opposition in GT4. Big dive by Matt Topham up the inside, number 1. The Lamborghini from Barwell goes ahead now and secures the place away from Mark Smith. I mentioned at the start of the race, number 17, the Harry George McLaren from GT4 was being looked at for whatever happened on its way to the grid. The team manager is being summoned to race control, and that's never a good sign.
No, and I wonder what it could be. Maybe it's like being late to the grid or some sort of time constraint issue. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that's a strange one, that.
So there's your GT4 leader, number 90, that is Mark Warren. Second look, Ravi Ramy's BMW, Ed McDermott third. So nice jumbled order within the class. And of course the Lotuses are having to carve their way through. Aidan Neat is up into 21st. And there's clearly a problem for number 17 McLaren because it's not yet gone through at the end of the opening lap. So Harry George has got a problem. And whatever it was that stopped it on its way to the grid, I rather fear it's electrical because it has created a slow lap into the pit lane. So number 17, not only is there a visit to race control from the team manager, but the car's in the pit lane clearly with a problem. Meanwhile, in GT3, looking back from Morgan Tilbrook's McLaren, and behind is the Aston Martin of Giacomo Petrovelli. Now onto a nice fast part of the circuit, and then hard on the brakes, James, down to the S's here.
Indeed, and that's one of the cleanest starts I've ever seen in British GT, which I think everyone's got the championship in mind. It's round 1, everyone wants to get points on the board, and it is a 2-hour race, so it's not going to be won in the first corner, even though some people think it is won on the first corner. So, yeah, very clean start from everyone, which is good to see.
Interesting, this little battle as well, isn't it, between McLaren and Aston Martin. Giacomo Petrovelli staying in touch with Morgan Tilbrook, trying to work out where his car may be stronger, where the McLaren might have the edge, as it's Mercedes, Lamborghini, Mercedes 1, 2 and 3. Nick Jones on his toes, getting up past Mark Smith. That's a bold move in the Porsche, coming off the last left-hander of Goddard's. Leaders go by. Charles Dawson, 1.2 seconds clear of Alex Martin, who is now, if you like, unleashed and going after that Mercedes.
Yeah, and that number 9 McLaren and P11 that just got overtaken by the Porsche, you know, it's worth saying that they had floor damage yesterday in qualifying that they've not been able to repair. So if they do lack pace, that could be the reason why.
Yeah, the aero will be slightly compromised, won't it? And certainly Mark Smith is having to drive around the problem. Very wide there goes Andrew Howard, the ice cream magnate. Mark Warren leading GT4, and he's escaping up the road, isn't he? Ravi Ramyid is second, Ed McDermott is third, fourth there you can see the Porsche of Jamie Autumn. But the gap here that Mark Warren has got is over 2 seconds.
Yeah, and I think the GT4s, from what I was talking to a few people out in the paddock, is the BOP changes have been quite significant for a few cars. So the Mercedes has lost some turbo boost, it's had some weight taken off it, to be fair. So the qualifying order is almost a bit irrelevant in a way because the cars should have a different sort of pace today in the race.
Yeah, some have benefited, some would argue they have not benefited from the BOP adjustments. And we understand that number 17 was being worked on after it should not have been on the grid. So it might be academic anyway, given that it's still in the pit lane, but the reason it's being investigated was for work going on when it shouldn't. But now it's serious work and a big, big problem, and that's the worst way, isn't it, to start your season. There's a big dive there by Jamie Orton, puts him up on the inside to gain a place, and that is now third in GT4 for the Porsche.
Yeah, good move. Really good move. It's a shame about the McLaren. I mean, the McLarens and the Lotuses yesterday were the best GT4 cars around, so they did have a chance for a result, but some reliability gremlins there getting in the way of their result.
Aidan Neat's on his toes, isn't he? He's the quickest of the Lotus drivers right now, and he's just put a move, as you saw, on John Curry, who is under attack as well from number 14 BMW, which is Brandon Templeton, new to GT Racing there. Look in the background, goes one side, then the other, full send up the inside. Wouldn't think he was new to GT Racing.
No, and speaking to his teammate earlier, Chris Salkeld, they think they've got a very good race car. The BMW is stronger in the race than it is in quali, and it's quick on the straights, so they're going to be able to overtake, as we've just seen there. So they're only going to move forward, I think.
Absolutely right, down to the old hairpin where there's a big crowd. Really nice to see in the sunshine here. So many people. Even at 7:15 this morning there was a queue to get in, would you believe, as the leading cars then flick onto the Grand Prix loop. That is Nick Jones trying to keep the Porsche in the mix, ready to hand over to Sven Muller. And of course you'll find in GT3 pretty much all the AMs diving for the pit lane as soon as they can when that window opens to maximise the time for the pro in the car.
Of course, I mean, that's the best strategic option is you know, minimise the slower driver's time in the car, maximise the pro time in the car. So you'll see them box really early. I think the job for the AM drivers now is, can you minimise the gap, give your pro the best chance possible to get the result at the end of the race. There's points given at the halfway stage, so it's important to have track position now and at the end of the first hour, but obviously the main thing is the end of the 2 hours.
I don't want to wind anybody up about track limits, but the warnings are coming, and Morgan Tilbrook is being warned about track limits at turn 7. So down at McLean's, race leaders currently are on lap number 5. Remember, it's a 2-hour race, and if you're in a GT3 car, you can make your mandatory, your regulation stop after 62 minutes of the race are done. In Silver AM, Chun Chun Gip in the Honda versus Andrew Howard in the Aston Martin. Now remember, Andrew is a British GT champion of years past. Chun Chun Gip has raced in the UK in single-seaters. He's raced in the Monoposto series, for example. He's rather new to GT racing, but a fascinating battle this.
Yes, and back to track limits, you know, the way that works at an MSV track like Donington is you've got sensors on the exit of corners, so it's black and white. If you run over the sensor, track limit flagged immediately. So speaking to a few people in the paddock, there's been a few rumours that the track limit sensor at turn 4, the old hairpin, wasn't working. So people have been encouraging other drivers to exploit that, but maybe I've just alerted the race director to that, so maybe he'll be on that now.
Well, here's another big battle going on. Number 1, Matt Topham, ahead of Nick Jones, ahead of Mark Smith. And they're all queued up behind Mike Price, new to this McLaren, switching from the Mercedes and really liking it. He did have an off yesterday, but really happy in that car, we understand. John Curry goes through in the Mercedes. He has now got the 2 Lotus stacked up behind him, the cars of Ian Duggan and Stephen Lake. Ian Duggan is in 88, 69 is Stephen Lake, the man behind Mahiki Racing. Mahiki being a London nightclub, they flick through the S's. In the good old days when the Grand Prix extension was added on, that was a very heavy brake and a real discernible left and right. But now with these flat curves for motorbike racing, you can virtually straight line it.
And the number 84 Lotus is already in 5th, so it goes back to show, you know, that raw pace that they showed in quali over a 2-hour race. They're going to be in contention for a podium, if not the win, without any crazy drama.
And this is that car. You're on board with Aidan Neate in 84. That's Ed McDermott's Mercedes, just up the road. Is he near enough to make a move at Redgate?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. There's not a lot of slipstream in these GT4 cars or the GT3s, to be honest. So you have to get a good exit out of the last corner, or you need to force your opponent ahead into a mistake. So overtaking at Donington out of all the tracks is better than some of the tracks, but still quite difficult.
Down to the old hairpin, Ed McDermott thinks about covering off the inside line. Aidan Neate closing right up, and the Mercedes looking a bit more of a handful there, as here for 4th, Morgan Tilbrook, being warned about track limits. He's on the defensive now. He's got Giacomo Petrobelli tucked up behind him.
Yeah, he's putting pressure on. He's made him go slightly defensive there into the last corner, so he should get a decent run onto the start-finish straight, but still not close enough unless he absolutely sends it on the brakes. But he's trying to get in his mirrors. He's trying to, you know, weaving offline there, trying to put him off, which is a good tactic to try and distract your opponent ahead, but he did run wide there at turn 1, which is not ideal.
Both of them, of course, spent a bit of time in the winter racing in the Asian Le Mans series to get themselves ready for the season. This was earlier in the race, and bang, Morgan Tilbrook. There is straight lining and there is straight lining, that chicane, and a little bit of damage incurred there. He certainly shifted the tar stack, and that's a heavy old thing to move.
It is indeed, yeah, and you know, I've seen a few cars do that already this race. I think if you do it once and get away with it, then you can just back it off from there, but everyone's pushing.
Just seen a bit of lappery going on. Number 37, the Jolt Racing McLaren of Rupert Williams has gone a lap down. Talking of McLaren, number 17 still in the pit lane. It's effectively, I fear, out of the race. We don't know why. Let's check in with Bryn.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ada's 100% correct. It is out of the race. There's a gearbox issue. They felt it on the way out, actually, and they were trying to work on the car. It just proved to be a long problem they can't just fix right now. So they have taken the car in, the drivers got out, and they have just decided to call the race right now. So they're not even going to try and fix it and get it back out on track. It looks like it's terminal, and they'll need a proper look at between this and the next round.
How frustrating is that? Okay, thanks, Brent. Number 17, McLaren, gone early from the race. As you look at the fight for second that's building up, Kevin Say has sort of fought back, hasn't he, against Alex Martin, and they've lost a big chunk of time to the leader as it's all kicking off behind Mike Price, Nick Jones, number 1, Matt Topham, Mark Smith on the outside. All of this is going on for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th as they come to the line, and you've got here McLaren, Porsche, and Lamborghini all mixing it, and it's the second of the McLarens that gains a place. Mark Smith, damaged floor and all, gains a place back.
Yeah, and the front three now have broke away, the two Mercedes and the Lamborghini. So I think the Mercedes is clearly quick in the race because Say's being held up by Martin now, I think we can say. So if he gets the move done, yeah, the Mercedes, they might run away with it.
Now, number 41 is also being investigated for its start procedure. That's the Porsche that we've been talking about of Jamie Orton in GT4. Not what you might call the big Porsche here of Nick Jones, winner back in 2020 in a rain-affected race, and it was an inspired tyre choice that got Team Parker Racing and the Bentley the win. Right now, Nick Jones on the tail of Mike Price, and Peter Montague's GT4 Aston is about to be negotiated coming on to Starkey Straight. And there you see the speed differential as the GT3 cars breeze past. And Nick Jones on his toes thinks about making a move on the inside. Can't really get the job done there, but applying the pressure to Mike Price. And that comes back to what you were saying earlier, James, about trying to force an error out of the guy ahead.
Yeah, and he compromised his line into the chicane there, which has now put him under pressure from the McLaren behind. So a move into the chicane is a brave one, just because of the tyre stacks and the tyre barriers being present. But yeah, he's putting the pressure on, but he's got to be careful. If he does it too much, he's under pressure from behind as well.
In fairness to Mark Smith, he lost ground early on, but he's regrouped nicely, hasn't he? He's picked himself back past Matt Topham. And if those two ahead, Price and Jones, green McLaren, blue Porsche respectively, start tripping over themselves, then he's got a chance to buy back another place.
For sure, yeah. When you're in this sort of dogfight and you've got a car ahead but also a car behind, sometimes holding position is the best thing to do. Unless there's a clear-cut move on where you can get the move done, the last thing you want to do is go for a move, get it wrong, and then fall backwards.
You see the gap between the top two. It is up to 4.3 seconds now, with Charles Dawson leading Alex Martin here. Kevin Say in third place. Already part of the fascination starts to be the relative pace of the drivers in stint 2, the pros, doesn't it? And whether Alex Martin, for example, Sandy Mitchell is going to be so much quicker than Kian Jewis or on the same pace. We haven't really seen Kian for long enough yet in a GT3 car to know the answer as to what the speed differential, pace differential may be.
That's a good point. And just speaking to people in the paddock earlier, I think in terms of tyres and tyre wear, the Mercedes apparently is really peaky, very quick out of the box, but the tyre wear over a longer stint does struggle. The McLaren seems to be the best over a longer stint on the tyres, so that could be a factor because we're only 15 minutes in. Yeah. So, yeah.
Talking McLaren, there's 77, Morgan Tilbrook, despite one or two little witness marks on the side where he's been up against the tyre stacks. He's fending off Giacomo Petrobelli, who's probably thinking the right thing here. If an opportunity presents, I can have a go. Okay, I'm losing a bit of time, but I want to keep a car in the mix for Johnny Adam for stint 2. 6th is Simon Orange ahead of Richard Neary, and this is 8th. 4 of them in a queue. Mike Price, McLaren, Nick Jones, Porsche, Mark Smith, McLaren, Matt Topham, Lamborghini going on to the top of the Craner curves. We're on lap number 10 now, and as I say, this is the fight going on for 8th place. Mike Price doing a good job, really, because of all the pressure behind him.
He's the cork in the bottle, though, isn't he? He's definitely holding up the cars behind, but, you know, he's not going to get out of the way. It's their job to overtake him. And, you know, if the cars behind don't feel like they're that much slower, being stuck behind him, it's in a way it's not worth the risk to get past. But I think they're definitely being held up, though.
Mike Price has been a bit unlucky at Donington in the past with some rather spectacular incidents he's had in his Mercedes days here, but both he and Callum McLeod, his co-driver, really enjoying the experience of the McLaren thus far. Nick Jones back in the championship after a couple of years away in the Le Mans Cup. Cam's now down towards the S's in the Porsche behind him. So they flick left, right over the curbs and then onto the Grand Prix section. Bit sideways, Nick Jones, that delays him, compromises the exit speed, and Mark Smith nips past him. Good opportunistic move, and all of a sudden Matt Topham is back at the races.
Yeah, big tank slapper through the chicane there for Jones. I think, I mean, Porsche engine in the rear, it's very easy to get that sort of moment in that car. So, yeah, really costly as he lost the position there.
And Mark Smith was in exactly the right place to capitalise, wasn't he? Matt Topham couldn't, and we've got problems for 69 Lotus now, limping into the pit lane. Stephen Lake, it was an electrical issue yesterday for 88, and now 69 with a problem as well. Oh dear. So that's going to make the Mahiki atmosphere change somewhat. We've been talking about the cars, or certainly 84, picking its way up the order. One slowly down the pit lane as Mike Price, Mark Smith, McLaren now argue over 8th place. We've had a change here, look, in Silver Am, where Andrew Howard has gone up past Chun Chung Ip, so the Aston has sorted out the Honda, but I reckon the Honda's on its way back to try to retaliate and get the place. Chun Chung Ip is not content sitting behind the Aston.
Absolutely not. And I think, everyone's starting to get into a rhythm now with the tyres, and the peak of the tyres gone. It's now about, can you have a good race stint? So generally with these GT cars and the Pirellis, lap 2 and 3 is your quickest, then it just falls off from there, and it can fall off to being about a second a lap slower than the start of the stint. So throughout the stint, you just want to end up, braking 10 metres earlier at every lap. You've got less grip, you're burning fuel as well, so you're approaching the corners quicker. So it really is about just bearing that in mind. You can't drive the car at the end of the stint like you can at the start.
A rather unhappy sight we've just seen, car on the skates being wheeled into the garage, so it looks like 69 is either out or going to be pit bound for a long time. So this, the GT4 leader, Mark Warren, 5 seconds clear of the class opposition. A really good stint, got away early on, but a 30-second stop-go penalty has been applied. But it's for a car that's out of the race. Number 17, the Harry George, Luca Hopkinson McLaren, for working on the car after the 2-minute signal, gets a 30-second stop-go penalty, but it's already stopped. It's out of the race. Here, Charles Dawson, having to do more lapping. This is your outright race leader, lapping Ravi Ramyeed. New art for Charles Dawson. Last year in a GT4 car, he was being lapped. Now he is doing the lappery.
Yeah, and that's a skill in itself with multi-class racing, especially as the faster car is. Can you lose as little time as possible getting through traffic? And it's not as simple as it seems. Sometimes it's about timing stuff to brake earlier, get the run on the exit, so you lose 5/10, not 2 seconds.
And the gap's come down, hasn't it? It was north of 4 seconds a couple of laps ago. First to second, it's now 2.6. So whether that's traffic or whether it's Alex Martin being able to up his pace, time will tell. But certainly the gap has pretty much halved, and Morgan Tilbrook goes through, still being chased by Giacomo Petrobelli, but it's not looking quite so easy now for the race leader. An incident also has been noted between 67, which is Simon Orange, and Richard Neary.
For sure, yeah. And I think Dawson's lost a small amount of his lead, 2 seconds, simply because he's hit the traffic first. That will ebb and flow, and generally it's pretty even Stevens when it comes to traffic. Sometimes you get a good run of it, sometimes you don't, but the law of averages would suggest it will be pretty even for everyone.
Indeed so, as the 4th and 5th battle now comes up to the traffic there. 84 Lotus goes down towards Redgate Aidan Neat. Bryn is standing alongside 69, I notice, so Stephen Lake's car is in the garage. Bryn, I get the feeling this is more bad news for Mahiki.
Joe Osborne, the team manager, and they said they think it's an exhaust or oil pressure issue. I've just watched them try and fire the car up a number of times and it isn't firing, so that would say something like oil pressure to me. They are just looking at it right now. They're working on it like bees at the moment. Ants are getting to work, but it's looking unlikely that we're going to see it again, but you never know. Certainly the race is over.
Okay, Bryn, thanks. I suppose if nothing else, James, it's worth trying to get the car out and use it as a test session. You've paid for the track time. If you can get the car circulating, it's all bringing back data.
Absolutely, yeah, and track time's so limited. You can do setup testing, you can develop as things as a driver as well and work on things. But yeah, you're not going to get a result when you're that far down. Oof, that's a really close moment with the GT4 traffic there for the McLaren.
Yeah, that was Morgan Tilbrook getting up past Ravi Ramyeed. Giacomo Petrobelli had to bail out of that and sit behind. Now he gets past the BMW of Ravi Ramyeed down to the Melbourne hairpin, where Morgan Tilbrook, I thought, was just going ever so slightly wide, but Petrobelli not really able to capitalise on that. Meanwhile, fastest lap of the race, I hadn't mentioned, Charles Dawson has done that way out on his own up front. And we've also had an incident involving Mike Price and Matt Topham. No further action involved in that, however, as Tilbrook and Petrobelli go across the line together. Half a second between those two. Giacomo Petrobelli looking a bit more interested now in making a move.
Yes, and looking at the fastest lap, 26.5, which is 6/10 quicker than anyone else. So that quali pace for Dawson translating fully into the race. And what are they? Just over a second and a half off where they were in quali. So that's the extra fuel and the heavier fuel load and slightly different track conditions as well. Slightly colder today as compared with yesterday. So the pros, when they get out there, will be definitely in the 25s, which is quick.
And he's also starting to up that lead again. 3 seconds. It has crept back up as there. Look, Mike Price has got through the traffic rather better than Mark Smith. Nick Jones coming under attack from Matt Topham. So it is all happening right now in that 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th battle pack as they swing their way towards McLean's. But Mike Price has certainly got through the traffic better and built a margin. No question about that. In GT4, Mark Warren leads Ravi Ramyud. We've just talked about the BMW being lapped, but it's second in GT4, up to third in GT4 now is Aidan Neate in number 84 Lotus. And he very soon is going to have Mike Price bearing down on him. Mike Price comes up behind Ed McDermott's Mercedes. He's got past Brandon Templeton. This is another frustrating period for the GT3 drivers because corner by corner they're having to pick their way past other cars, and that interrupts their battle.
It could be frustrating, you know, if you get a bad run of traffic, you know, it's very easy to lose your temper, but that's when you start going slower. So you need to keep your cool, keep the heart rate low throughout, and overall that will serve you better. But looking at the GT4 lead, 7.4 seconds now to P2. I think P1 in GT4, their main threat is that Lotus in P3. If they can get clear of P2, the raw pace is there to catch Warren. So yeah, GT4 is going to be a good race.
Ooh. There is the number 41 Porsche, a bit of contact going around Redgate. Yeah, that's GT3 cars sort of being a bit muscular getting through as quick as.
Yeah, he sort of forgot he was there really, didn't he? Just came across him on the entry, but no harm done, but got away with that one, to be honest.
And that Porsche as well has just copped a drive-through penalty for not being on the ground at the 3-minute signal. So let's first of all have a look at the contact. Mike Price gets up the inside here of Jamie Orton, and there's the brush between the two. But then 41 Porsche has to serve this drive-through penalty. That can't be combined with another pit stop, so it's going to junk a load of ground, isn't it, as Mike Price laps Aidan Neate now going up through Coppice.
Yeah, it's going to really hurt them. You lose a lot of time when you're stationary in the pits, obviously, but yeah, big move coming up between the two McLarens, side by side going into the chicane on the grass, but he's going to go around the outside, and yeah, good move, good commitment, and I think the green car did let him go in the end, but yeah, nice. Yeah,
I think Mike Price and the green McLaren decided that discretion was the better part of valour. Mark Smith, don't forget the car's got a damaged floor, but he really has regrouped nicely, hasn't he? Because he was at the back of that queue and he's picked his way back to the front. So Mark Smith, hat tip, has done a nice job there.
Yeah, it's hard to say how much that floor damage is worth, right? You know, It could be, we're speculating, it could be worth very minimal. And clearly he's getting there now and he's starting to find his rhythm. So the pace looks good.
On board with Ravi Ramyud, who is second in GT4, third in GT4, the yellow Lotus of Aidan Neate behind. Into the pits has just come Jamie Orton to serve that drive-through. So Mike Price then down into 9th place. And not only has Mark Smith got past him, he's cleared off into the distance. So, yeah, this is a really interesting stint by Mark Smith. Place is lost early on, but now he's clearly found a happy place.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying about the McLaren. Maybe it is a strong car in the second half of the stint. You see the Porsche there, the big tank slapper at the old hairpin. Almost went into the gravel there, but yeah, this GT4 BMW having a rough ride with traffic on this particular lap, losing a lot of time, but as I say, it ebbs and flows.
True enough. So back into the race goes 41 Porsche that we just talked about, the GT4 Cayman making the drive-through penalty stop. Nick Jones having had his second tank slapper of the race, fending off Matt Topham in number 1 Lamborghini. That's your race leader, don't forget. Charles Dawson comes now out of Goddard's over the timing line. 16 laps about to be put in the book. That last lap was a 27.0, about half a second down on his earlier fastest lap of the race. Don't forget he's new to this car, the team, to GT3 racing, and all the testing that he's done in the winter being put to very good use. So Charles Dawson's mission here is to try and build up as big a lead for Cian Dewis, and then let's see what Cian can do in stint 2.
Indeed, he'll be loving life right now. Out front, big lead behind, sunny day at Donington. I've been there, it's a lovely place to be in a GT car. And you think, what could possibly go wrong? But safety cars, pit stop errors, a lot can go wrong. So the more you can build this lead up now, it gives you that buffer when you get to the pit stop sort of stage of the race, which can be very, very crucial.
There's the gap. Kevin Say falling away now from Alex Martin. He had regrouped a little while ago, but he seems to have junked a lot of time over the last couple of laps as well. The story about number 41 Porsche, the Cayman, of Jamie Orton continues, having served its drive-through. Now a driving standards flag is going to be shown to Jamie for the contact with Mike Price's McLaren. The story rumbles on. There, 78 goes out of the exit. So Alex Martin is now 3.5 seconds back, but nearly 2 seconds clear, if you see what I mean. 2 seconds ahead, give or take, of that car. Kevin Say at the wheel. Maxi Götz to take it over. So you've got Maxi, who is a factory Mercedes AMG driver. You've got Sandy Mitchell, who will take over 78, who is a Lamborghini factory driver, and Kian Ju is to take over the leading car, who is just a very quick silver. You know, he's not a manufacturer driver, so he's going to have some star names behind him when we've had those pit stops.
He's going to feel the pressure in the last hour, that's for sure. You know, Sandy and Goetze, two of the quickest drivers on the grid, hunting him down. Presumably, if they're still in the lead at that point, and 3.3 seconds over an hour is nothing. So ideally, Dawson gets that gap a bit bigger.
And then you're going to have, in these two cars, factory driver for McLaren, Marvin Kirchhofer, Johnny Adam, factory Aston Martin driver will take over number 7. You know, there are some big names. I'm not trying to do Kian Jewis down, but he will have, as James rightly says, the pressure on him. He's a Carrera Cup GB champion. He's a British Formula 4 champion. But last year, he only did one race all season, or one event. That was the Le Mans Cup with Darren Malkin. Over the line goes Aidan Neate, who is now right on the back of Ravi Ramier. This is for second in GT4. Remember, 84 Lotus has come from the penultimate row of the grid and into Redgate Corner now. That margin is only 0.8 of a second. Aidan Neate's on a mission.
He is indeed, yeah. And just back to the point on Jewis. So, I mean, you know, silver graded driver, aspiring pro is the definition for that. And what better opportunity do you want? Out in first, in the middle of a British GT race, you've got an hour left, you've got two of the best pros in GT racing hunting you down. If you can hold your nerve, keep the gap, maybe even extend the gap, you've sent a message.
Now what about Aidan Neate here? Great stint thus far, and he's getting even closer to this BMW, isn't he?
Yeah, and we know how quick this car is on this particular weekend, so this is the sticking point. And car looks hooked up, maybe a little bit of dirty air from the BMW behind, but you see going over that bollard there, the BMW just goes straight over it. But he's putting the pressure on. It's hard to get a move done, but this is their race. If he can get past his BMW very soon, he can start eating into that lead of the McLaren.
Closing up under braking for the Fogarty S's. That BMW looks more nervous, and 2 or 3 times on the lap we've seen it have a little bit of a dance, haven't we?
Yeah, and speaking to other GT4 drivers, I just don't think the BMW's got the raw pace of the Lotus or the McLaren, so it's done well to be up that high, to be honest. But now the longevity of the 2-hour race is starting to really show that their car's not quite there.
Aidan Neate thinks about a move on the inside, coming up towards Goddard's, and decides in the end it ain't going to work. That was close.
He's getting frustrated, but he's trying to make it happen, so I think another couple of laps. It just depends where because each car's got its own strength and weakness, and sometimes you can find that if you're not quick on the straights, you just can't get past. And I think the BMW is meant to be one of the quickest in the straight lines, so yeah, it might be a tricky one, this one for the Lotus.
It's one of the fascinations, isn't it, of GT racing, especially in GT4, how the balance of performance, of course, makes it all work, how you get a kind of boxy touring car style GT car against the low-line Lotus, and they are so equal. You know, you've got a different engine configuration, different engine sizes, different shapes, different aero, and yet it all works out for really competitive racing.
Yeah, and when you're behind a car that big, which is the M4 GT4, it's like you're behind a roadblock. Where do you even attempt to pass? It seems like the Lotus in Sector 2 is definitely a lot stronger in these medium speed corners. So maybe setting a move up into the chicane and then, you know, forcing a bit of a dummy and then down into the hairpin. As we know, that's the best overtaking spot on the track, which is exactly what he's doing. He's forcing the BMW to the inside. The BMW knows he's clear though, so he can take the proper line through the chicane. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a move this lap, but that would be the best move into that hairpin.
See what he can do here then. He's come up, remember, from the penultimate row of the grid, so started 24th, brakes hard, almost into the back of the BMW and goes too deep into the corner.
Getting in his mirrors, but yeah, as long as the BMW doesn't make a mistake here, I think, as long as he doesn't over-defend as well. If he over-defends, he'll just make himself vulnerable. So slightly wide at the last corner. I think that might just be the line through the last corner. I see a lot of people running wide there. That must be where the rubber's laid down, even though it's theoretically not the racing line through there. If that's where Lamborghini off at the old hairpin.
That is Matt Topham, who's had a big spin. Thankfully, no damage. He rejoins just ahead of Andrew Howard, who's got to commit to the inside, and Matt Topham gives him very little room at all. Andrew Howard badly compromised in all of that. Chun Chung Ip in the Honda goes round the outside and takes the place, and Andrew Howard can feel rather aggrieved about that, can't he?
That wasn't a great rejoin. The speed differential there, just to come back on straight onto the racing line, straight onto the apex of the uphill left. Yeah, the Honda and the Aston will be a bit miffed at that.
Well, Chun Chung gained a place, but Andrew Howard, I mean, he had to anchor up to avoid an accident, really.
He did. He had to get on the brakes. Well avoided. You know, it was very close, but yeah, that was pretty crazy.
So the cars flick through the S's, and of course Matt Topham kind of, with this me expression, gets away now. He's already starting to drive away now that he's back into a rhythm with Chun Yip in the Honda chasing after him, but he's wide again, Matt Topham. So is Andrew Howard, in fairness. And there for second in GT4, full send by Aidan Neate up the inside of Ravi Ramyid at the S's. Job done. Goes a little bit wide. Ravi will try to fight back on the way down to the hairpin, but the pace of that Lotus is absolutely top draw. But Ravi Ramyid does have a big dive and clatters into the side almost, forces Aidan Neate wide, tries to retake the place. He's not for losing that position, is he?
I thought he had it done, but I think the BMW outbroke himself and turned an outbraking sort of move into an overtake. So fair play, but he didn't make it stick. The Lotus still maintains. So that's their race. They've now got past that big BMW. Can they eat into the huge lead that Warren has?
However, there is a but on the horizon for that Lotus, because Aidan Neate, Josh Miller are silvers. They're chasing a Pro-Am car. They will have to serve an extra 24 seconds
Very good point.
in the pit lane. So you're quite right. Yes, they can now start to hack away, and what they've got to try and do is eat into 9.6 seconds. But whatever they do, you've got to add 24 on at the other end.
Yeah, you're bang on. I completely forgot about that, and that's a game changer. 24 seconds is a huge amount of time on this grid. So. Yeah.
But it's a stint 2 safety car. It can all be negated, can't it? This is what happened to Matt Topham. So Nick Jones, I think, had a bit of a moment, and then Matt Topham had his own bigger moment behind, almost like he was caught out by what the Porsche was up to. And here's the rejoin.
Yeah, and I think what happened there, he just sort of panicked, got on the brakes whilst having a load of steering wheel angle on, and the rear just come around. But yeah, that rejoin was a bit crazy, to be honest, onto the grass. I mean, fair play to keep it going and get back on track as quick as he did. He reacted well, but yeah, that was very close with the Aston.
I mean, when Andrew Howard committed to the inside, there was a sort of gap. I still think Matt Topham's spin was slightly triggered by being caught off guard by Nick Jones having another tank slapper in the Porsche. It sort of outfoxed him, and he suddenly seemed to close, and that was a bit of a panic moment, and he lost it. However, number 1 is still circulating, and it is in 11th place. Chun Yip versus Andrew Howard, which is also, of course, for the Silver Am lead. It's in that order still. Honda ahead of Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Go Cook looking on.
Yeah. I think that the Lamborghini, when you slam on the brakes like that and you're still going through the corner, the rear's just going to come round. So with the weight, and the Lotus is off. Is that the 84?
That's 88, isn't it? So that's the car of Ian Duggan. That's in the gravel at Coppice. Prepare for a full course yellow, says race director Peter Daly. Racing driver himself, very successful Formula Ford racer, and Peter will be on the radio to the teams saying prepare for this FCY, and that is so the race can be neutralised, so they can get that car out on the gravel.
Yeah, and no pit stops yet. Even if a safety car comes out, we're not in the window for the pit stop. So GT3 is after, GT4 is after 58 minutes, and it can go all the way to 70 minutes into the race. GT3 is after 62 minutes, and it has a slightly shorter pit window than the GT4. So it will be a busy pit lane, but not yet.
Now, I would be very surprised if this full course yellow did not go into a safety car period, safety car procedure, and that would negate the advantage of Charles Dawson, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that Aston there with a lot of damage on the front left, which...
Oh, yes.
I don't know where that's come about, but that will undoubtedly be affecting aero and maybe even some mechanical if the suspension sustained some damage there.
So Giacomo Petrobelli having gone into the back of somebody, does that explain why the Lotus is in the gravel, I wonder?
Ah, yeah. Putting two and two together there, David. I like that. That would make sense, and here we go. This is probably it.
So Morgan Tilbrook at the inside of the Lotus. Oh, you bang. That does rather answer the question. And a spin as well for Giacomo Petrobelli in the Aston Martin.
I think that was just a bit late from the Aston, wasn't it? I know it's a GT4. I know you're 8 seconds a lap quicker, but...
Yeah, he wasn't alongside.
That was just a pure wipeout, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Giacomo Petrobelli is a really nice bloke, but he'll have to use all his charm to talk his way out of that, won't he?
Yeah, and I think he might. Yeah, they're undoubtedly going to have to maybe do some work at the pit stop. They've got a long pit stop to fix some stuff, but that's a fair bit of damage.
So it could be a rather lengthy full course yellow to get this car out of the gravel and to clean the track as well, because there might well be a little bit of debris on the road, and you don't want that puncturing tyres.
True, the tyres are up to pressure now. I think if you're above 1.2 bar on the tyre pressures, you're pretty safe from that sort of stuff. But if you're going around at pace and there's gravel and stuff on the track, it will catch you out because there's definitely less grip in that particular area of the track. But when you're going at full course yellow speed, 80 kilometres an hour, you're going to be all right, to be honest.
So the safety car is about to be sent onto the track. You're looking at Mark Warren's McLaren, which is the GT4 lead car. And we may, of course, be heading ultimately within GT4 for a wave-by, depending on where the GT4 cars are relative to the safety car. We'll worry about that should it be required, should we end up with a wave-by. Rather depends where people are around the racetrack and on what lap they are. We'll explain more should it be relevant. So that's the lead car, Charles Dawson, who, under full course yellow, with everybody having slowed right down, has for the moment at least been able to increase the lead. What we need to see now is how long it's going to be before the GT4 cars are allowed through on that wave-by, and indeed how many there are currently between him and the second place car of Alex Martin. Cian Jewis, though, must be pretty pleased with all of this, watching Charles Dawson at work. You're also looking at a new front section being made ready to go on Giacomo Petrobelli's Aston at the pit stops. Let's try and get to the lead car, though. The 2Cs Motorsport Mercedes, Charles Dawson at the wheel, and Cian Jewis watching this in the company of Bryn Lucas.
Not much I can really say to set this one up, but for you, Cian, real frustration because Charles had done such a good job.
Yeah, you know, I think the gap at the moment was 5.3 seconds, which would have been lovely to hand over to me. Obviously, at the moment, we're full course yellow. More than likely, we'll go safety car, so obviously back to square one again. But this is the nature of the beast.
There's a long way to go in the race. I mean, it's not over just yet. I mean, you guys are still going to be hopefully starting the restart in this nice ¡1 position, though. And Charles has got the pace. Is there any damage to the car, significant damage to the car?
No, not as far as we're aware, no damage at all. He's managed to pass traffic nice and clean. So yeah, as far as we're aware, everything is fine. So hopefully after the restart, we can get our head down and start chipping away again.
It's literally a case of get your head back in the game and off you go.
Yep, exactly that.
Cheers, Cian.
It's going to put the pressure on, isn't it? Because that nice lead that he was expecting is going to dwindle. So here's another look at it. James, just talk us through this. I mean, you can see what Giacomo was trying to do.
Yeah, if you're the Lotus, that would have really caught you out. You wouldn't have expected that. But if you're the Aston, I think it's just a lack of impatience, a lack of patience. Sorry. So yeah, it was too far back. I know there was a space there, but maybe if he was further to the right of Coppice, he might have snuck through, but he sort of missed the apex and just ran into the back of the Lotus.
It's also somewhat offline anyway, wasn't it? I mean, there was a drama coming, whether the Lotus was there or not. Safety car procedure has now been deployed, as you can see. Why do we have a safety car when we just had a full course yellow? Well, the reason is you can go faster under the safety car regulations than you can under a full course yellow. There is 88 out of the gravel and back into the pit lane. The safety car is loosely termed at motorway speeds rather than the much slower pace of a full course yellow. What this does is allow the cars to go faster. It allows them to get the tyre temperatures up, the pressures up, maybe brake temps up again. And also now you can see that there is the leader, and behind is the car from GT4, 18th overall, 4th in GT4. So a wave-by should be coming to get the GT4 cars out of the pack, round to the back, and onto the same lap as the GT4 leader.
That's right, and as a driver for a wave-by, you literally sit there, wait for your engineer to go, right, wave-by now, and then all the cars will stay to the left. You'll pass all of the cars on the right, and then you'll safely, at a reasonable speed, get round and unlap yourself, basically, and join the back of the queue.
The one thing this does is slightly prolong the safety car period, because it's going to put another lap, maybe two, on it. But it does make the GT4 race a lot fairer, because quite often some cars are one side of the safety car, or the leader, if you like, and some the other, and they lose out.
It keeps the race alive, exactly. Yep. I think, back to the point on tyre temps and brake temps, under a full course yellow, when you are literally on the limiter and you can't weave because you'll slow yourself down and then lose your advantage to the car ahead and behind, the safety car neutralises that, allows you to weave and brake, get your tyres up to 10, because if you didn't do that and you started racing again, everyone would just have no grip and they'd spin off.
So the field kerning its way up through McLean's. Just to remind you that all of this was created by 88 being punted into the gravel, much of the frustration of Ian Duggan, who was behind the wheel, and of Joe Wheeler, who would have taken the car over for stint 2. He's with Bryn.
Yeah, he is looking frustrated. Ian's still sitting in the car. Joe, what has Ian said to you?
Yeah, we've not spoke yet. We're just reviewing the damage now and see if we can get back out. It's been a frustrating weekend so far for us, chasing issues. So yeah,
it certainly has. I mean, you had the problem, the electrical problem. It seems to be earlier on. Was it looking like it was fixed from that point?
Yeah, the guys have stripped the car completely overnight, and we think we found the issue. So we're hoping for a strong race day today.
I'm assuming you've seen the replays, so give us your thoughts on what you witnessed. It's very hard with the GT4s and the GT3s, that pace disparity.
Yeah, it is hard, and I completely respect the speed difference, but you know, he's quite clearly at the apex, and it just came from behind. So from my view, Ian did everything correct for me.
Let's just hope they can get the car back out there and you can have a run. Thanks very much, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, because again, it would be mileage, wouldn't it? But they came with 3. They're down to 1 at Mahiki. The car going up then to Goddard's, and we will await the wave by then. It's really when Peter Daly is happy that there's nobody standing trackside having sorted out an incident that might be in danger before he lets the cars go. So he needs to be content that all the incident is sorted as best it can be before he does this shuffle. It'll be on the back straight as well, Starkey Straight, as I understand it, down to the S's.
Yes, and it's a new thing, the wave by for British GT.
Yeah.
They've had it for GT World Challenge for a few years, but yeah, I think it's good. I think overall it's good for the race.
So the instruction comes, first of all, that pit entry would be closed, then safety car move left, eligible cars move right.
Attention to all teams, pit entry is closed. Pit entry is closed.
Okay, that's part 1. The next message should be that the safety car moves left and eligible cars move right, and then start wave by.
Safety car move left. Safety car move left. All eligible cars move to the right and hold station.
It's going well so far. So the next command will be to start the wave by, and then a wave by completed pit lane open command or instruction would come after that. So the wave by will be on Starkey Straight, which is coming up as Lorna Vickers in the safety car brings the field through.
Start wave by. Eligible cars may overtake on the right-hand side. All other cars stop weaving, please.
So here it is. GT4 cars to one side, although the Porsche Cayman, you can see in the background, is not moving through. So that starts to make life rather awkward, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And there's one thing to be said here. There's an advantage for the cars that get the wave by, because they got a whole lap of going at a lot faster pace and getting more tyre temp and more brake temp into their tyres. So when the restart
GT4 cars
takes
after the
place,
wave by accelerate to catch the train, please.
A little bit more grip than the cars that haven't had that opportunity. So yeah, it's quite an interesting dynamic.
I'm thinking that the Cayman, oh yes, it has woken up to the wave by.
I think everyone's still getting used to this new procedure, aren't they?
Yeah. Of course, that car lost time early on with a drive-through penalty, so maybe the team was slightly confused as to whether it was eligible or not. Anyway, it's gone. And you're right. I mean, now you're going at a proper pace to sort of catch up for a whole lap. So, yes, those cars that have been waved by do get that tyre benefit.
Yeah, it feels a bit strange as a driver on that particular scenario, because it's a safety car, and obviously everyone needs to go slow for the safety of the circuit. But you're ploughing round at 90%
wave
speed.
by completed.
So it's a bit odd.
Pit lane is open. Pit lane open. Wave by completed.
So there is Peter Daly confirming that everyone has done. So now you put the quick those released GT4 cars onto the back of the train, then we can get set for the restart.
Yeah, and then the racing will commence. And I think, you know, Dawson will be gutted that that safety car came out. I remember at Brands we had a 28-second lead, and we thought, right, we're odds on for the victory here. Safety car comes out, and it's all back to zero. So, yeah.
So as the cars come over the line, I think we'd seen the damage on the front of number 7, hadn't we? Giacomo Petrobelli, his part in the incident, and a spare front section, Bryn, was being made ready for the pit stop.
Yeah, and I'm standing right next to this spare front section, and it is being duct taped up as we speak. I went over to speak to Johnny Adam. He didn't want to talk on camera. Quite frustrated character, Johnny, just there. They're going to run the car with the damage until the pit window and replace it during that pit window. So they've obviously done the sums and worked out that they'll lose less time by doing it this way than running with the damaged car. But that's, what, 15 minutes or so away. So it's not ideal for them at all.
And in addition to that, the spin has cost them 3 places. They've dropped down a further 3 places. So there's damage, and they've also lost track position.
Yeah, and they'll be praying, you know, the safety car stays out as long as possible to just negate that damage, I suppose. But yeah, they've got 115 seconds in the pit stop to change that, which, yeah, should help their second half of the race, that's for sure.
Unless, of course, there's always a but lurking in the system, isn't there? An incident like that, the stewards may have a look and a penalty may come. Incidentally, it's the stewards nowadays that are doing
the judicials during the race. So the race director would impose a penalty if it was from a judge of fact. Let's say like the pit stop was too short or it was track limits. But an incident like that, where it's contact, that would be dealt with in race by the stewards.
Yeah, and we've seen penalties given out for less, haven't we? Yeah. So, yeah, I'd say that's going to be one.
I fear so, yes, which is probably really what's in the back of Johnny Adams' mind. Bryn said he didn't want to talk on camera. It's not just what's happened. I think what Johnny is thinking is what's coming. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Stories are never over until they're over, you know, in British GT. So the cars now make their way down towards it's not just Charles Dawson who's a bit Albert's mother about this lack of gap now. It's also Mark Warren, because from a monster gap in GT4, look who's sat on his shoulder virtually. Aidan Neate in the surviving Lotus.
Indeed, as you say though, that 24-second deficit in the pit stop is game-changing, and I think Warren will know that. The engineers will be telling him that. So they're still in a good spot. I know it's not as good as 20 minutes ago, but they're still in a very good spot.
And not only, of course, are 1 and 2 nose to tail, but you've got Ravi Rangid up there as well, who is still on his toes. Back into the race comes 88. So Ian Duggan's car, not too badly damaged, we hope. He'll get some laps in, and you never know, as others hit problems, might be able to buy back some places. Safety car has just gone storming past the pit, so you get the feeling this could be its last lap. Lorna Vickers perhaps on instruction.
The safety car will be in this lap. Safety car in this lap.
There we go.
I was about to say the wick has been turned up in readiness, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be weaving that a little bit harder, braking that a little bit harder, ready for that race start, getting as much temp as possible into their tyres. This should be good.
So safety car in this time. 88 Lotus heading back into the race, but we are ready for what promises to be another storming, if you like, start lap, because Charles Dawson's going to try and rebuild his lead. And in GT4, Mark Warren versus Aidan Neate, that's going to be... Oh, now the Lotus has just left the pits and driven into the gravel.
That's a strange one.
Yeah, I'm rather hoping that Ian Duggan was trying to get out of the way and park the car, but has run out of grass, if that makes any sense.
Well, that's not going to be safety car in this lap.
No, it's not. Not with it sitting there. That's the last thing race control needed.
The safety car will not be in this lap. We are retaining the safety car. All cars, safety car procedure.
Okay, I've seen it, but I'm not sure I understand it.
There must have been some electrical issue, or maybe the wheel's not done up properly. I don't know. I mean, it's a shame it's in the gravel as well. It makes it a bit more tricky to get out. So I think we might be under safety car, maybe up until the pit window, which might be interesting.
Yeah, great. So that's a last thing race control need, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
To try and delay the
complicated.
It almost looked like, yeah, there was a problem, I grant you, and Ian Duggan tried to swing out of the pit lane to park it, and then almost didn't know the gravel was there.
I mean, I'd be amazed if he didn't see the... It looked like he aimed for the gravel. So, who knows?
Okay, that's another one for Bryn to go and investigate when Ian Duggan gets back. That goes under the WT you-know-what heading. So the officials have gone to the Lotus to make sure that, A, the car is okay and doesn't have some sort of issue that's caused it to go into the gravel like that. And then, of course, try and get it out. Snatch vehicle's on its way, double quick speed. Shouldn't take long, hopefully, to just hoik it out of there and get it to the team, but that's an odd one, that.
Yeah, it depends what's wrong with it as well. If the car doesn't run, then it might take a bit longer. If it can run, then they'll just drive around and get back to the box. But I think the Lotuses have been a key part of this race in entertaining us, haven't they? They've been all over the place, haven't they?
I mean, bright yellow cars draw attention to themselves anyway, but they've done it for all sorts of reasons. Let's talk about the good bits, though. 84, Aidan Neate's pace. He has been a really impressive newcomer this weekend, hasn't he?
Yeah, especially in qualifying.
Yeah.
And, just looking back to the P1 car at GT4, the McLaren, they've still got their quick driver to go in. So that's going to, really compound the fact that 24-second loss for the Lotus in the pit stop is going to be almost impossible to bridge that gap in an hour.
So we've got the 88 Lotus out of the gravel. It's being hoiked up the pit lane. Right, Bryn, we need an answer to why it's been in the gravel, don't we?
You do, and I've got Joe Osborne here, who looks like he's aged a fair bit, and just in the last few hours, Joe, it's been a really tough race for you with 2 of the 3 cars. I mean, and Aidan Neate's looking fantastic up there at the moment, but what's just happened to 88?
Yeah, where do we start? You say Aidan Neate's going well. We've just been rear-ended under the safety car by car 71. So all 3 cars have had incident. 69 we kicked off with an exhaust issue. 88 was obviously harpooned into the gravel, which is a shame. Boys looked over the car, looked okay, and then when it's left pit lane, something's let go under load. So, yeah, tough weekend.
it's a very, very tough weekend. Go and dust yourself off and get yourself ready, and hopefully Aidan will be okay. Thanks, Joe. Back to you, Adders.
Thanks, Bryn. Lights off on the safety car. We're going to go racing this time. But yeah, just to echo what Joe Osborne was saying there, something broke under load, so there was more damage to the car. It wasn't Ian Duggan making a mistake. Something broke, pitched him sideways effectively into the gravel. So it looks a bit embarrassing, but it wasn't Ian's fault. It was a mechanical failure, a legacy of that big, big hit with the Aston Martin. So we are good to go once more then as the cars accelerate out of Goddard's. The green flags will fly at the timing line. We're back racing. 24 McLaren, by the way, is a lap down, so only now can Kevin Say get on his toes to try to get past him on the run down towards Redgate. Dawson has the advantage still. Second, it is Alex Martin. Kevin Say is third. Morgan Tilbrook fourth. Then you've got Simon Orange up into fifth place. And for GT4, we're about to have a change, are we, for the class lead? Not quite. The Jolt Racing McLaren's on the outside. Mark Warren gets up the in. Aidan Neate is right on his tail. And now the Lotus tries to make a move down through the Craner curves. This is absolutely nose to tail for the GT4 lead.
Yeah, and this is crucial because, you know, this might be the only opportunity the Lotus gets to get anywhere near the McLaren. So if he can get the move done, he can force the McLaren back into the pack, and then anything can happen. So this is crucial.
Riding on board with Aidan Neate then as they make the climb through Schwann's curve, brake, turn right. This is McLean's closing up under braking. Mark Warren, who is an AM, remember, whereas it's a bronze graded silver driver is Aidan Neate. The Lotus will have a longer pit stop under the regulations if you have two silver graded drivers as a partnership, so it's close now, but after the pit stops that gap should in theory stretch as the cars now accelerate again down towards the S's. Behind them, Ravi Ramyeed's BMW there is third. Fourth in GT4 is Ed McDermott. Fifth is Brandon Templeton. So this has completely ignited GT4 as well as GT3 now.
Yeah, 3/10 is the gap between P1 and P2 overall for Dawson and Martin. So, yeah, again, it's presented the Lamborghini with an opportunity to potentially get in front of the Merc. And, you know, up until that point, the Merc was down the road. So, yeah.
No further action, by the way, against Matt Topham for that unsafe rejoin. Ravi Ramyeed going oh so defensive to fend off Ed McDermott with the My Black Dog legend on the side of the car, the mental health charity that he supports and carries the colours of within British GT. Great character, Ed McDermott, and every season he just gets faster and faster.
Sure thing, yeah. And I bumped into in the paddock earlier. I bumped into him, and he was talking about how the Mercedes yesterday was really strong in qualifying, how they've had turbo boost taken away from them. He reckons it's worth 3 to 4 tenths a lap, the BOP change overnight. So that's a significant margin, especially in a field this close. But he's hanging on.
Indeed so, and he will hand that car to Seb Morris. They're running in the Endurance Cup, right behind Brandon Templeton, new to GT racing, but we've already seen him pull a couple of really demon moves, and he's going to pull another one here against that Mercedes as they come up now towards the right-hander of McLean's corner. The Mercedes from Team Parker Racing, the BMW from Century Motorsport. Now, Mark Warren, in fairness, has fended off the challenge of Aidan Neate. He's not got away, but he is still leading the class.
Yeah. It's inevitable, I think, because of the pace of the Lotus and Neate, but maybe this lap into the hairpin, he looks closer than last lap. But he's doing the job, you know, he's prolonging the inevitable, you could say.
Right, here is one of those uh-oh alerts. Team manager, car 7 to race control. Giacomo Petrovelli's Aston Martin is car 7. You know what's coming, don't you, after that contact against the Lotus? We've also got a few drivers who are going to be investigated after the race for the safety car procedure. They are largely out of GT4, I think I'm right in saying, because Aidan Neate lines up to have a think about a move, at least, on Mark Warren, to no avail at Goddard's.
Yeah, and I think those cars under investigation can only be really for leaving too big a gap in the safety car line. Or maybe it was something to do with the wave by potentially. That was a bit of a messy procedure, given it was the first time it's happened in British GT.
Yeah, certainly one under investigation is the Porsche Cayman, which we'd identified was late starting its wave-by procedure. Number 50, Peter Montague, another, and 37, Rupert Williams for Jolt Racing. So a bit of confusion amongst all of those. However, right now, lead battle in GT4 is a very aggressive one, and the bodywork on Giacomo Petrovelli's Aston is peeling back further and further as the air gets underneath it. So there's a visibility problem, but there's also a safety issue. If that rips off, that's a real problem for everybody around.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Aston's left-hand drive, so that bonnet is going to be right in his eye line, making it very difficult to see the apex. So, yeah, I don't know if that's extra contact that's been made that's buckled the bonnet up even more, or if, as you say, if it's peeled back in the airflow, has pulled that bonnet back. Not sure.
Well, as you say, it is a big problem for visibility as Alex Martin keeps Kevin Say at bay. Coming now out of Goddard's, Charles Dawson's away up the road again on the restart. Alex Martin having to fend off the
10-second stop-go penalty for car 7, causing a collision with car 88. 10-second stop-go penalty, car 7.
There you go. So confirmation, Giacomo Petrobelli there is going to serve a 10-second stop-go for causing the collision. We rather feared it was coming, and the woes continue, don't they? So he's lost places, he's got damage, there's going to be a stop-go penalty. And they can't combine that with repairing the car. They're going to have to make another one. They're desperate to try to get that to the pit window, as equally desperate for a class lead. Aidan Neate, is the remove on the cards at Redgate, do you think?
He's close enough. He is close enough, but there we go. He's just released the brake going towards the apex, and yeah, the McLaren thought better of it. I think they know they're not going to be in their race later in this race, given the pit stop time. So nice move though, and got the job done.
And if you're wondering why on the back of number 84 Lotus there is a sticker that says 003, it is an internal reference for the team, because then they know which car they're talking about. They'll do other championships where the cars might carry different race numbers, so they need to have a method of knowing which car at all times, not championship dependent. Giacomo Petrobelli, despite the damage, is getting away a bit from Mike Price.
I can't believe he can see. I mean, from this angle, it looks like there's no possible way he'd be able to see over that bonnet, but fair play. Maybe he's got X-ray vision or something.
Probably got Johnny Adam coaching him around the circuit. Brake now, Giacomo. Turn in now, Giacomo. At the inside of Nick Jones, tries to go Matt Topham. Couldn't do it. Andrew Howard is still trying to retake the Honda. Meanwhile, Charles Dawson has just gone booming past the pits and he's on to lap number 34. 3.8 seconds to the good. That is quite a gap in a couple of laps after a restart, isn't it?
Yeah, that's bigger than the gap he had before the safety car. So, yeah, scratch what we said earlier about the Mercedes not having longevity and pace with the tyres. It seems very good over a whole hour. So
what's this? We said it.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd rope you into that one.
Oh yeah, thanks.
It was me, David.
Here is a bus. We're now under it. Out of Redgate corner there goes Mike Price, and he's trying to fend off Nick Jones, who's got Matt Topham tucked up behind him, and Petrobelli comes in. This is for the stop-go. It's like the walk of shame, isn't it, down the pit lane?
Yeah, and interesting, that bonnet is nowhere near as bad at pit lane speed. So the airflow really just buckling that metal bonnet backwards.
So loss of time here, because it's not just the 10 seconds, it's the drive time in and out. So that car is going to tumble down the order. And remember that as a GT3 car, they have to get to 62 minutes of the race completed before they can do the mandatory stop. So 62 minutes have got to be done, and we've got an hour and 3 to go. So they're about 5 minutes off that window opening, whereas in GT4, you only have to do 58 minutes before the window opens. In other words, just over a minute before the pit window opens for GT4 cars, and it's about 5 minutes before it opens for GT3, okay? But no matter what class you've got to do, the stops have to be done by 70 minutes of the race being completed. And in the GT4 category, as we've been making the point, silver driver combinations have a longer pit stop. The times are different anyway for GT3, 115 seconds, GT4 145 seconds, plus 24 for the silvers. We'll be asking questions later. Nick Jones lining up to have a go against the McLaren. That Porsche's coming back into the mix.
It is indeed. I think the drivers now, as they're approaching the end of the stint, and they know they will be, they'll be asking the engineers, is it this lap, when are we boxing, next lap, just so they can mentally prepare for the pit stop. You know, you start to, remember in your head, what do I need to do when I get out of the car? Loosen the belts, undo the belts, the netting, the radio, what do I do when I strap the other driver in? Because in the heat of the moment, there's a lot of stuff to do in a very short amount of time, so you sort of need to rehearse that in your brain before you get there.
There's Aidan Neate leading in GT4 and leading in silver. Behind him, second in GT4, but leading Pro-Am, Mark Warren. Ravi Ramyeed now with Ed McDermott bearing down on him. So the My Black Dog Mercedes right up behind Century Motorsport BMW. Aidan Neate, having come from almost the back of GT4 to the front, starting to build that advantage, isn't he now? Because he's nearly a full second clear going onto this lap. Ramyeed is ahead of McDermott. Charlie Robertson will take over the BMW. Seb Morris, who partnered Charles Dawson in GT4 last year to Pro-Am honours, he will take over from Ed McDermott. So, again, the second stint is going to be really interesting with different drivers getting into the cars.
Yes, particularly GT3, I think, with Sandy and Goetze hunting down the Mercedes in P1, I think it's going to make for a very interesting end of the race in GT3.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Brandon Templeton, I know we've been going on, or I have, about Aidan Neate being impressive, but so too has Brandon Templeton, new to GT racing, and getting that BMW number 14 up into the mix as well. He's done karting. He was in GB4 last year, but this is a good debut in the BMW. Century Motorsport, of course, knows so much about BMWs, be them GT4 or GT3, in addition to Carrera Cup or Ginetta Racing. Nathan Freak's team doing a really good job. So he's got the tools to deliver, hasn't he?
Yeah, so I think as a team, if you're running the same car year in, year out, you start to understand the quirks and what you can do with the car. Had to gain a 10th here, and that's invaluable at this level. And I think that's why you see Barwell do so well in this series year in, year out. It's because they know the Lamborghini inside out, and that's just worth so much, all that inside knowledge.
Now, as you can tell, pit window is open for GT4 cars. So Aidan Neat has come in the Mahiki Lotus. There is Mark Warren in. Josh Miller will take over. Refueling goes on for the Lotus. So you try and run the car as light as it can for each of the stints, and their drivers confer. Aidan Neat will give information, give knowledge as to what the car and the track feels like. Jack Brown, last year's GT4 champion, ready to jump on board number 90.
Yeah, you've got to do the refueling first before you do the tyres and the driver swap, so that the drivers just stand there very leisurely talking to each other while the fuel goes in, and then it's like craziness happens all in one moment, and you get the driver strapped in and out on circuit.
Now, coming into the chicane, contact. Nick Jones and Mike Price, and it's the Porsche that's going to come off worse. Kaboom! Into the tyres.
Big one.
Gets airborne, big indeed. That's going to put debris on the road. I would fear that's going to have done a rad and put coolant and liquid on the road as well. And it's come to grief right slap bang in the middle of the S's. Thankfully, the car has got going again. Sorry, what's left of the car has got going again, which now starts to fall apart around the circuit. So that's another one that's going to have a long stop, because they're going to have a lot of repair work to do on the front of that car.
And a big bit of debris sitting on the racing line into turn one. I'm literally looking at it right now. So that will be an instant puncture if a car goes over it. So yeah, a lot of cars will have to be careful about that.
Right, there is Stuart Hall making his way on track in Peter Montague's car. And yeah, that is a huge piece of debris. Giacomo Petrobelli still going and hoping not to add to the debris on the road with the bodywork peeling back. We are about 40 seconds away from his misery coming to an end, and he can come into the pit lane. The pit lane is almost open for GT3 cars. About half a minute we are now. Alex Martin has to squeeze another lap out of this, so does Kevin Say. The lead gap's up to 5.6 seconds now. Dawson to Martin, Say third, Tilbrook fourth, fifth is Orange. But yeah, I wonder whether race control are hoping that the airflow of cars will eventually sort of waft that bodywork out of the way, or whether they're going to have to send a brave marshal out to move it.
Yeah, it's still there. I don't know. Same with the tyre stack at the chicane. You know, now that's fully been barged out of the way. Maybe a safety car to get rid of the debris and reinstall the tyre stack might not be a bad shout, to be honest.
But if that is in the thought process, oh, that's close. There's Mike Price just glancing it. Maybe what they're going to do is let all the pit stops settle, and then when there's an order, then they can scramble a safety car or a full course yellow to get those things tidied up. But at the moment, with the pit lane being open and pit stops taking place, it all becomes a bit more confusing. Let's find out as the race carries on.
And Dawson last lap a second quicker than P2 and P3 in clear air.
Right, there's what's left of Nick Jones' Porsche. Sven Muller ready to get on board. Charles Dawson should be in this time, shouldn't he? And when he does so, we'll start to have a look at Cian Jewis's lap times when he goes out for his stint. We understand that a marshal has been able to run out and retrieve that big piece of bodywork, which is good news.
Yeah, and I think we might see a few more track limits at the chicane now, because the left-hand side tyre barrier is gone. Drivers naturally are going to try and open up that chicane and go through there 5 kilometres an hour quicker. So, yeah.
Right, GT3 cars are now in. So Dawson is in from the lead, Martin from second, Say from third, Tilbrook fourth, Orange fifth, they're in. That's the 2Cs part of the pit lane, where it's very, very busy. Cian Jewis then with his seat cushion ready to jump on board. Alex Martin comes down the pit lane ready to hand over to Sandy Mitchell. That's Mark Smith coming in the black and pink McLaren. Martin Plowman awaits on his way down the pit lane. There is John Ingram in the GT4 Jolt Racing McLaren. All of a sudden, that pit lane becomes so busy. And you've, as I've used the phrase before, got to get on with your neighbour, haven't you? It does help if you know when the team next to you has a car coming in.
I think the thing with pit stops, if you can keep calm, it's easier said than done, keep the heart rate low, things will go well. As soon as you start rushing and trying to save a bit of time by doing the belts quickly and stuff, that's when it goes pear-shaped, and that's when you lose seconds, which you can do in the pit stop.
So there's new tyres going on the Dawson Jewis Mercedes. You saw the yellow flag at the S's, not for a car, but for the tyre stack in the wrong place now after it was jonesed. And we understand that race control are going to try and redress that once the pit stops have all been completed. So that's another blow, in a sense, isn't it, in the system for Charles Dawson and Cian Jewis, because even though Charles had built up the lead again, it looks as though potentially that's going to be negated by another interruption. They're not going to do much about 66, are they? Just get Sven Muller behind the wheel and tell him to make the best of what's left of the front of the car.
Yeah, it looks like it still runs fine. I think, as you say, with all the Barwell Lamborghinis stationary longer than it probably should be, to be honest. But the thing is, Jewis is not going to be gapping Mitchell and Goetze 9/10 to a second a lap. It's going to be a lot closer in this second stint.
Exactly right. Yeah, Nick Jones' car, Sven Muller at the wheel. I was getting worried about Barwell not having released as that was going down the pit lane, but it was on a different lap. So there, everybody blasts out, and the same order, but you can see how the gaps have come right down. So second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth even, with Sam Neary pretty much together. And although Cian Jewis has the advantage, it's not a big advantage anymore. Matt Topham, by the way, did lead, but has now pitted a lap after everybody else. So the order's slightly distorted. Cian Jewis then thrown into the car. Go on, Cian, go out and build that gap. And he is doing. Straight away, look how he's disappeared up the road from Sandy Mitchell.
Yeah, really, really strong half and out lap there by Jewis. But yeah, Topham going for the overcut. So I think that's not a bad shout. With all the chaos that's going on in the pits, it might be quite easy to run into trouble. So I think if you do an overcut, one extra lap's not going to hurt you too much on lap time. You just get a clear run through the pit stop.
They're going through Max Goetze in number 18, Mercedes for 2C. 67 is now Marcus Clutton. He's taken over from Simon Orange. And Sandy Mitchell then will make his way down now towards the S's in hot pursuit of Cian Jewis. Martin Kirchhofer, McLaren factory driver, aboard 77. So that's the race leader. That's second, and that's third, the Mercedes. And we have still got 54 minutes, just under, of this race to go. Nothing is decided yet.
Indeed, and the race lap record 24.9 back in 2023 by Ewan Hankey and the McLaren. So I think there's a chance we might see that pipped. It'll be close, but looking at the stint one times, the mid-26, some of these pros are going to be in the low 25s, definitely.
Yeah, because it's a nice, dry, sunny day, but it's not too warm to strangle the pace of the engines, is it?
Yes, exactly. Nice, cool temps, lots of grip, tracks rubbered in from the other series and such. So, yeah.
Hugo Cook, the Northwich driver, aboard number 1 from Matt Topham, waiting to be released from the pit lane. So Cian Jewis went through 5.3 seconds ahead of Sandy Mitchell, but already Marvin Kirchhofer has done an absolute best in number 77 McLaren within sector 1. You're looking at Maxi Goetze, but behind him, Kirchhofer is on a charge, no question about it. So 77 McLaren, do not rule that one out as the race hots up. There in the background is the McLaren going even wider, Marcus Clutton behind. So Cian Jewis sector 1, he was a 10th slower than Sandy Mitchell. The gap should be coming down over the course of the whole lap for the race lead.
Just looking at this data sheet with the pit stop times, the top 3 were within half a second of each other in terms of their total pit stop time. So yeah, no sort of gains or losses there between those front 3. It's going to be all down to the raw pace in this second stint and who can basically win the battle on track.
Charles Dawson with his back to you, talking to Kevin Say about their respective first stints. Now both have to go and watch their co-drivers and also watch Sandy Mitchell, because he's quite germane to the outcome of the race for both of Mercedes. He's behind one and ahead of t'other. Over the line comes Cian Jewis then, and 5.3 seconds was the gap this time as Sandy Mitchell breaks the beam. 4.7, Sandy Mitchell, fastest lap of the race. He's on a mission, the gap's coming down.
25.5, yeah, really fast, 6/10 quicker than P1. So at that rate, he'll be on him in literally 7 or 8 laps. So this is going to be good.
Those lap records set when the track was resurfaced. So, of course, that in turn has bedded in. There's Jewis coming out of the old hairpin. Sandy Mitchell behind in second place. And then you've got Maxi Goetze, who is also lapping quicker than Cian Jewis. So, in other words, the top 3 concertinaing. There's confirmation of that fastest lap by Sandy Mitchell. Flicked right out of McLean's now. Back on the power. Climbs the hill up towards Coppice. And doing what he's here to do. Go flat out and see what you can do for your co-driver, Alex Martin. Sandy won't do the entire season. Patrick Kujala will sub for him. So he's here knowing he can't win the championship, but he can at least take race wins, and he can help Alex Martin win the championship as well. Into the S's comes Sandy Mitchell. On this lap, he had done a good first sector, but Cian Jewis is responding with an absolute best in the middle sector. It's game on.
It is game on, yeah. And, you know, this is why the pros are the pros. Literally lap 1, straight on it. You know, there's no build-up, and that's why they are the pros. But I think, back to your point about Sandy not doing the whole championship, the pressure's almost off in a way. It's, there's nothing really to lose for him. So that's that might convert into the lap times on track. And you can see.
Right, leaders go through, 4.8 seconds. It's crept up a little bit, hasn't it? So, yeah, Cian Jewis has responded nicely there to Sandy Mitchell's challenge. Third is still Gertz, fourth is Kirchhofer, fifth is Clutton, Sam Neary sixth, in number 8, the ABBA Racing Mercedes, that's been almost anonymous. You never say that about the Nearys. It's just gone round and round and round and not drawn attention to itself, which is unusual. Normally it's a real feature of the race. There is Sandy Mitchell then charging along. He is fractionally faster in sector 1, and by fractionally, I mean 55 thousandths. That's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing. So interesting that Jewis is holding his own, despite the fact he's a silver and Sandy Mitchell and Gertz are golds and platinums. Jewis is, he's holding that gap, and it's going to be tough because there's still a long way to go. So 50 minutes left, but a good start to the stint for Jewis.
Still got that yellow flag being shown on the run down to the S's. Now we are anticipating that tar stat may be moved back into place, but nothing's coming as yet, is it? Down towards the Melbourne hairpin, then comes number 78, Sandy Mitchell. He could do with another safety car, couldn't he, to bring him right back onto the tail of Jewis, who's being held up a little bit in traffic. It's the Aston of Stuart Hall just ahead, and he's encountered that car in exactly the wrong part of the racetrack. Stuart, hugely experienced, tries to get out of the way as quickly as he can. Cian Jewis goes by. And there is Sandy Mitchell's Lamborghini in the background, 3.7, another new fastest lap of the race for Sandy Mitchell, that time around a 25.256, and Maxi Gertz is only 2.8 seconds behind him.
Yeah, and he's lost a second behind that car, but the field spread's quite big now, so there's no big clusters of traffic, they're all quite spread out, so it's going to be down to a little bit of luck, who catches the traffic at the right time in the right corner. That could be the difference, because, but that's a really quick lap from Sandy, 25.2, 3/10 off the lap record.
And a quick word about number 7, Aston. Giacomo Petrobelli gave way to Johnny Adam, but that car's now dropped back into 13th place. Massive frustration all round after a good pace early on. And all the pit stops have been done to the regulation time. Nobody was short on the pit stops, we understand, from TSL, the timing service. So that's one fewer thing for the teams to have to worry about, but at least the pit stops were good, and we can concentrate on the track as Max Gertz comes up to try to put a lap on Stuart Hall in the GT4 Endurance Cup class Aston.
Yeah, and as a result of the safety cars, I think, at the beginning of the race, we thought it was going to be a 3-horse race, but as those gaps developed, but it's really brought everyone close together. I think the top 6 are all in this. There's less than 11 seconds covering the top 6. If the front 2 do catch each other and fight, it brings everyone else into the mix. And so this, it should be a close one.
We did hear Joe Osborne, didn't we, talking about the Aidan Neat Josh Miller car being drilled under the safety car. Well, it was by number 71 BMW, we understand, because that's under investigation for safety car procedure with number 84.
I think his grammar was harpooned. Actually.
That'll be it.
Yeah,
yes.
And that's fair enough. It was a big one.
Indeed. Prepare for full course yellow. So it may not be a safety car to interrupt the race, but a full course yellow is coming, seemingly, ready to move that barrier back into place. So a full course yellow is coming.
Which should be followed by a safety car.
Depends how long it is, really. Yeah. If this is something that can be done in, let's say, 20 seconds, tyres haven't lost too much temperature.
True.
It's when it's a long full course yellow, you need to give them a hand to get back up there. The lead car, Cian Jewis, will be hoping it's not a long situation, because if they can get away with only a full course yellow, he still has a gap.
And if it is a quick one, you've got to be on it as a driver, because it can go green like that. And the engineer's advice is go off the green in the in-car dash, not the flags, because some marshals might be slightly late to get the green flag out, and then you've lost time relative to other drivers around different points of the track.
Now, this isn't a tyre barrier that you can just give a push to with your arm. It's, as you've seen, got to be moved by a vehicle with all the weight behind it. So that vehicle, in turn, has to cross the track. So everybody brought to a slow pace. And there you can see the snatch vehicle trying to push the tyre barrier back to where it needs to be, but it's going to have to be lifted and put into place, and all of this takes time, doesn't it? And the longer it takes, the more temperature is ebbing away, and the more time, therefore, lost means the closer you get to needing a safety car.
Yeah, and Jewis will be hoping this gets over and done with very quickly. Well, I hope the pro drivers enjoyed that chicane without the tyre barrier for the first 5 laps. It looks really nice, actually, but now it's going to be a bit tighter.
Looks like a battlefield, doesn't it, though, with all the gravel scattered around it, possibly little bits of GT3 and GT4 debris as well. There you can see 78, Sandy Mitchell then, who is closer, partly I think because of the full course yellow, meaning that Cian Jewis wasn't able to wriggle through traffic under the yellow flags.
With the full course yellow as well, you can never calibrate exactly to 80 kilometers an hour, the full course yellow system. Some cars are naturally slightly quicker than other cars under that full course yellow, so you can, if you're on the right side of that, you can gain time under an FCY. And you know, the lines you take as well, the line of least resistance when you're going that slowly is worth some time as well. So it's not a dead heat when an FCY comes out.
Yeah, true enough. There you can see Cian Jewis then in Charles Dawson's Mercedes AMG leading the way. 41 is just up the road, Will Burns in the GT4 Cayman. And Sandy Mitchell turning his way around Redgate Corner. That's the car in second place. And Alex Martin will have a view on what happens for the next 45 minutes. Alex Martin is with Bryn.
Yeah, we'll get his view in just a few moments. Alex, very quickly, what is this sign? Show us this sign here.
This is my kids and my wife. They're watching at home. I thought I'd send them a little message. Big love heart.
There you go. So we've given you a bit of screen time with that. Then tell us about what it's like in the car there. You've handed over to Sandy. You put in a flying lap, a fast lap straight away.
Yeah. It was awesome out there. Unbelievable. Car's great. I just was trying to put in some consistent laps and do my job, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
And full course yellow is going to help you guys as well, because Sandy's going to be right on the back now.
Yeah, but then he'll have some pressure from behind when it goes safety car. So we'll.
Pressure on your shoulders. Last year you guys were so strong, and you know you could have won the title, and we're looking at you guys as thinking, well, they are one of the major contenders.
I guess so, but as I've said, I'm just like super happy to be here, you know, so I'm driving, it's sunny, driving a Lambo, it's pretty awesome.
So show the sign one more time, we'll hand back to Addis.
Well done, Alex. The full course yellow is ending, and we are back racing then. We've gone green, so no safety car required, just a full course yellow period. And so now the lead gap is 1.6 seconds. Sandy Mitchell certainly has been thrown a lifeline.
Yeah, that was a long FCY without a safety car. That must have been very much on the limit before the safety car comes out. And I was sort of hoping for the excitement of the race, the safety car would come out. But still, the gaps are very short, so.
Yeah. I don't think we're done yet, though, are we? As there, Sandy Mitchell carves his way past Luke Garlick in the Honda.
Nice move.
It was indeed, yes. My one disappointment of this race is that we never got John Curry and Luke Garlick together, because you need garlic in your curry on occasions. But coming out of Goddard's now comes Sandy Mitchell. Just let it pass, press on. Up towards the timing line comes the Lamborghini then, and Sandy Mitchell breaks the beam 1.4 seconds back from Cian Jewis, who's got to deal with the traffic. And Sandy Mitchell, so experienced, not only of GT3 racing, of British GT, of multi-class racing, but of course he knows this car inside out as well.
Yeah, and he's gained 2 seconds under FCY. So whether Jewis, you know, had a mistake somewhere, or if the FCY limiters are calibrated so they did. So that's a big time gain overall for the Lamborghini.
And still for Cian Jewis, there's traffic up the road. It only takes one back marker to be encountered in the wrong place.
Like this.
Like this, indeed, go to the outside, and Cian Jewis loses time. He's not gone through, he's gone wide, he's up the curb, and Sandy Mitchell's that little bit closer as they dodge past 84, which is the car of Josh Miller now, taking over from Aidan Neate in GT4. Just quickly, that class now has gone back the way of number 90. It is Jack Brown in the McLaren leading, but Mitchell is getting nearer and nearer and nearer all the time.
Yeah, when you run that wide, even though it's not really his fault, he's just avoiding traffic, that'll be a track limit. So there's only a certain amount of those you can use up before you get a penalty. So not an ideal couple of corners for Jewis, but I mean, the gap's less than a second now. This might be, yeah, there might be a move in the next couple of laps.
And depending on how long they fight for the lead, does that give Max Gertz a chance? He's only 1.6 seconds back, or was at the start of this lap in third place. So the battle for first then, Cian Jewis, number 42 Mercedes. There, Sandy Mitchell here, number 78 Lamborghini, comes off Goddard's over the timing line. Gertz through the traffic ahead of Kirchhofer, so third and fourth are absolutely together as well. And the gap second to third is now 3 seconds. That's gone up in the traffic. So Maxi Gertz now has got to have a couple of qualifying style laps to get onto terms with the leaders. The lead gap though, 0.6 of a second, that's all.
Yeah, and it's even before safety cars come into consideration, it's still a 6-horse race. You know, the top 6 within 12 seconds. This is going to be very interesting.
No question about it, like it wasn't interesting already with some great fights that we've already had. So Jewis, Mitchell, Gertz, Kirchhofer, Clutton, Neary, top 6, 12 seconds covers them. incident between Mike Price and Nick Jones under investigation. That was the incident that caused the tyre stack to be moved, and it caused the Porsche to kind of fall apart. Sandy Mitchell's view then, heading down towards the S's. Cian Jewis ahead. Sandy Mitchell, if he wasn't spurred on before, will be even more so now by seeing the lead car ahead.
Yeah, and you can see Sandy's just using a little bit more track than Jewis pretty much everywhere, which will tally up. You know, if you're a tenth quicker in one corner on a 20-corner track, there's 2 seconds a lap, so you don't have to gain much to really gain a lot of time overall.
He's almost there, isn't he? Coming up onto the back of Phil Keen's GT4 Mercedes. Cian Jewis makes the move on the inside. Sandy Mitchell's going to have to wait the other side of the hairpin, but he's going to be right there ready to strike when the road opens up for him, which will happen now, coming off the corner. How frustrating is this as a driver, watching all your efforts not be undone necessarily by your co-driver, but there's nothing you can do. You know, Charles Dawson built that big gap, circumstances have affected things, but he's powerless now.
But they're still in the lead.
True.
That's the main thing, you know, track position's key, and yeah, it was to be expected. We even predicted this at the start of the race, you know, even though Dawson might build a gap, Mitchell and Goetzer will close it back up. That was always going to be the way it was going to go.
And true to form, British GT delivers plenty of drama all the way through. 39 minutes and change still on the clock, so we're a long way away yet from knowing a race result. As Sandy Mitchell powers out of McLean's, heads uphill. The gap had crept up slightly to 7/10 last time around. There is Gertz, who is still pushing on. Last lap not as quick as those ahead again, partly down to traffic, but they've pretty much cleared that wave now, GT4 cars.
For now, and they'll catch him again soon. But as long as Jewis doesn't make a mistake, I don't think a move is on really, because it's quite hard to overtake. They're now lapping a second a lap off what they were earlier.
Has
so
a 5-second time penalty added to your race time for contact on the safety car. Car 71, 5 seconds added to your race time.
So riding on board here with Marvin Kirchhofer in the background, you might just have heard the voice of Peter Daly, the race director, saying a 5-second penalty to car 71, Ravi Rami, Charlie Robertson's BMW, contact with the Lotus under the safety car. That will be added on at the end of the race. Bit more debris lying in the road as straight over it goes Sandy Mitchell. So a 5-second penalty to be applied post-race to number 71. Wherever it finishes, add 5 seconds, you'll get its correct position in the results. Lead gap, 0.570 of a second as they drop down the hill. Cian Jewis having to be brave through the traffic, and again Sandy Mitchell finds a car where he doesn't want it. This time Seb Morris's Mercedes.
Well timed though, and he didn't lose too much. I think, you know, yeah, it's a long time to sustain that level of pressure, less than half a second off for over half an hour left. It will be some job if Jewis keeps him behind.
But he's just trying to stretch it where he can. When the road is clear of traffic, I would offer you that Mercedes looks just fractionally the stronger car.
Yeah, and when you're this close to someone, for me, it's always about, right, be as close to them for as long as possible. That's how you're going to mount as much pressure as possible, and then you're more likely to get the guy in front to make a mistake. So it may seem in vain to be that close, but not actually getting past, but it could be the way to get past.
Marvin Kirchhofer gets past Seb Morris. Up the inside of the slow GT4 car. He's chasing after Maxi Gertz then. Here is Chris Salkel, number 14. BMW, and behind him is Will Burns, who's taken over in the Cayman. This is for 20th overall. It is for position. 3 laps down on the leaders, the outright GT3 leaders. In the background is Tom Wood, who is 8th overall in the Aston Martin. So BMW versus Porsche, Chris Salkel versus Will Burns, and that Cayman looking quick as Salkel flings the BMW into the S's there.
Yeah, and just to go back to that Porsche that hit the tyre barrier earlier, it'd be good to see a replay of that again, but I'm pretty sure they went side by side through there, and the Porsche just lost the rear, I suppose, with all the focus on making that overtake and clipped the barrier very hard. So, yeah, it can get very sketchy through that chicane.
It's being looked at by race control, as I say, as Chris Salkel fends off Will Burns, former GT4 champion in this British GT contest. He's also raced GT4 in Europe. He's raced in the British Touring Car Championship, had a spell in Carrera Cup GB last year. The GT3 Aston pounds past the pair of them and now goes through Redgate.
Yeah, and I see car number 3 and car 66 at T9 investigated after the race for their incident. So, yeah, it would be good to get a replay and see what happened there.
So there's the Porsche through. Chris Salkel just up the road ahead. So yeah, the incident between the McLaren and the Porsche at T9 is going to be looked at after the race. As James was saying, they were side by side. There's the Porsche in question. You see all the tank tape at the front for Sven Muller, ahead of the lead car of Kian Jewis. Over the line goes Sven Muller. So why does the car look so dog-eared? This was it, side by side.
He turned in on him.
Yeah, there wasn't much room afforded, was there, by Mike Price?
Yeah, and to be fair to the Porsche, he had more than half a car's width up the inside, and the McLaren just sort of ignored he was there. So more on the McLaren than the Porsche.
So there is the Porsche through. Now, I'd also mentioned a lap or so ago about the Charlie Robertson, Ravi Ramyi BMW being given a 5-second time penalty. Joe Osborne's word was harpooned. There's the BMW in question. It is in 16th place overall. Charlie Robertson getting out of the GT3 traffic's way. It's actually second on the road now in GT4, but under the safety car earlier. This is what happened. Ravi Ramyi is at the wheel.
That was a bit clumsy, yeah.
Just odd.
He had a lot of warning. I mean, the Lotus slowed down quite a long time in front of him, and maybe he was looking at his dash or looking at his seat belts or something and just missed that. But not a lot of damage sustained, to be honest. But we do remember Joe mentioned that in the interview, didn't he? Yeah. Car 71 got rear-ended in the safety car.
And 84 has fallen back, not necessarily because of that, but also because of the two silver drivers, meaning that it's a longer pit stop anyway. So that's been looked at by the stewards, not the race director, but the stewards doing the judicials. Greg Masters and his team in race control, and the penalty comes then to number 71 BMW. 77, Marvin Kirchhofer, comes over the line. I'm trying to debate in my mind whether Maxi Goetz is having to defend or whether the two of them are sort of working together, trying to go after Sandy Mitchell. Marvin Kirchhofer not really close enough to have a go anyway, but for the moment, they look like they're just circulating, trying to get up with the cars ahead.
I think so, yeah. I think they want a bigger cut of the pie overall, don't they? But I think, you know, Jewis is gapping Mitchell now, which is pretty crazy. 1.7 is the gap. So, yeah, that pressure that was being put on him 2 or 3 laps ago is relieved itself a bit.
I find it really interesting that Kian Jewis, first time out in that car, is able to deliver the pace he is. And Maxi Goetz, who we talk about being the factory driver and in a Mercedes AMG GT3 almost every waking hour, isn't really able to do much at all about matching that pace.
It's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no two ways about it. That is exactly what you want to see from an aspiring pro, a silver-graded driver. That's good.
And here weaving one side and then the other. Yeah, that is Will Burns. Left, right, left, right. Chris Solkelt not weaving in defence, but keeping the car in the middle of the road, and there's no real opportunity for the Porsche to go by.
Yeah, that was, I'm pretty sure you're allowed one move under when you're making an overtake or defending. So, but yeah, hard racing, no damage, and he's putting the pressure on the BMW.
And they're about to have Callum McLeod bear down on them in the green McLaren, the car that he's taken over from Mike Price. So Callum, former Formula Ford rival of Nick Tandy, if you go back a long, long time to when Callum was winning Formula Ford titles, goes past the Porsche. Gets a bit stuck behind the BMW, though. Chris Salkelt trying to get out of his way, but when it suits him, not at the earliest opportunity. Now there's a section of the racetrack that does present him to let the McLaren go, and he does so.
Yeah, that was close, but unfortunate really for the McLaren. I think he chose the wrong way initially and sort of got stuck, but that can be the way with traffic sometimes.
So again, you see the pace of a GT3 car. As soon as Callum McLeod is clear, then he starts to get away. Salkelt keeping Burns at bay. These two still squabbling over 20th place overall.
Yeah, and the team manager for car 50, car 67 and car 37 to race control. So interested to know what that would be for.
That, I think, was a full course yellow procedure from earlier on. Whether they didn't slow down enough. Will Burns having a go to try and find a way through.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably quite an interesting thing to talk about. The FCY procedure, you get a countdown in the car on the dash, literally 10, 9, 8. And if you're not at 80 kilometers an hour when it hits 0, you'll get an instant penalty. Your engineer also counts you down at the same time. So between the dash and between your engineer talking you down, if you still don't get there, by the time it gets to 0, then you've done something quite wrong. I think a lot of drivers try and edge that out as much as possible so you gain time in that scenario, but a few people may be pushing the boundaries too far there.
So Sandy Mitchell now 1.6 seconds back. It was 6:10. It's only 2 or 3 laps ago. Ollie Webb in the meantime in number 24 McLaren, Andre Borodin's car. One of Andre Borodin's cars, because he's actually got 2 of those in the garage and was debating which one during free practice he preferred. Ollie Webb takes over that. They lost quite a bit of time early on, so 13th overall. Ollie Webb's target is Johnny Adam in a also delayed car from earlier, of course, with damage, with penalties. And Ollie Webb there trying to, does that clean the tyres?
Maybe he's lacking a bit of pressure, or he feels like tyre temps aren't quite there yet, so he's just trying to generate that himself. But they've been struggling all weekend, haven't they? I think maybe with setup, or the McLaren as a car is clearly there. We can see with Kirchhofer and Clutton, but yeah, going down to the hairpin, then that Porsche finally trying to get a move done on this BMW, but still can't quite get it done.
And the BMW has been reported to the stewards for a pit stop procedure infringement. So the team manager of number 14 BMW heading to the stewards, Will Burns heading to the outside line, coming up towards Goddard's, can't do it there. Wants the wide in, tight out line to try and make a move, but even that's going to put him on the outside going down towards Redgate. So as the cars now head down towards Redgate corner, let's see, Will Burns thinks about the inside line and commits to the inside line, but is he close enough to make the move? No, he's not. The BMW, even with this damn occlusion investigation by the stewards, stays ahead for now.
Yeah, it's nice defensive driving from Chris, to be fair. You know, he's putting it in the right areas of the track. He's not out-braking himself, and he's not over-defending, so nice defensive driving.
A little bit of a slide coming into the old hairpin, gets away with it. And
Drive-through penalty, car 3737, drive-through penalty, car 5050. Not successfully carrying out the full course yellow speed. Car 5037, drive-through penalties.
Speeding under the full course yellow for those cars then, Stuart Hall and John Ingram, the drivers currently, and Will Burns crawling all over the back of the BMW. Chris Solkeld out of coppice, but the BMW just has the grunt to stay ahead onto the straight, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they're losing time now, that's the thing. So there we go. I think he's realised that, and he's let him go. Let's work together and not lose any more time to the cars ahead.
Especially given as well that bearing down on them is the race leader.
67, drive-through penalty, full course yellow, speeding.
So another one for the list from the race director. There's the leader, Sandy Mitchell, looking a lot closer this time. The gap was down to 1.3 seconds anyway, but Sandy Mitchell has brought the gap down a little bit further, heading now up towards Goddard's. Past the BMW, past the Porsche goes Jewis, but Sandy Mitchell's going to have to bide his time a bit.
Yeah, that Lambo looks hooked up as well. The way it just dived to the apex of the last corner was lovely. But interested to know with the FCY speeding things, was that initially or was that during the FCY period? Was that at the exit? Did they release the button too quickly? That would be good to know.
Yeah, one of them that's copped it is in fifth overall, Marcus Clutton, number 67. McLaren, and he's just come in to serve the drive-through, so he drops down the order as a result. So the number 67 McLaren that comes out of the Orange Racing by JMH stable, serving a drive-through. You can see Sven Muller is in as well in the background, and that's heading for the garage. So I think the damage sustained to the Porsche is just too great to sensibly carry on. Stuart Hall rejoins, Marcus Clutton rejoins in the background, John Ingram will rejoin, and there, number 90 is still the GT4 leader, Jack Brown, ahead of Charlie Robertson.
Yeah, and I think if you take into account the car that's going to win the championship, you know, raw pace is important, we know that, in qualifying and the race, but the stuff around that, such as FCYs, traffic management, racecraft, pit stops, if you can nail all those things whilst being quick, you're likely going to be in contention for the championship. So, yeah.
So there is 42, Kean Jewis taking over from Charles Dawson, outright leaders, and of course leading Pro-Am within GT3, that car heading into Goddard's, and Sandy Mitchell looking as though he's coming back at him. I know the gap had gone up, it's hovering around the 11:10s mark. Let's see whether it's up or down this time. Leader goes by, breaks the beam, Jewis ahead of Mitchell, 1.4, so it's crept up a little bit. Still is advantage Mercedes, and is in pure pace this.
When you've got so many medium and high-speed corners as well, you get close, the dirty air is quite prominent, and then you end up ruining your tyres a little bit, and you end up losing overall grip, so you have to back off, and then the tyres might sort of recover themselves, and then you can get closer again. So it sort of ebbs and flows lap after lap. So unless Jewis makes a big mistake or gets caught out by traffic or maybe a safety car and a safety car restart, it's going to take quite something to get past.
Now, in other news, number 17 McLaren, Harry George and Luca Hopkinson, has just left the pit lane. Why is this significant? Well, they are 55 laps down. They have just started lap 2 of the race. After all of that time in the pits trying to cure the problem of earlier, they're going to go out and use this as a test session.
They've gone testing, haven't they?
Yeah.
But it's a good opportunity, and it's, you know, you can test the car in dirty air. You obviously don't want to get in anyone's way or anyone's race because you're 55 laps down at the end of the day. You're not in the race anymore. So that's priority number 1. But yeah.
There's your silver AM lead car, Tom Wood. taken over from Andrew Howard. Tom was another Ginetta Junior graduate many years ago, championed by Donington Park Circuit and by Christopher Tate, then the managing director of Donington. And Tom has been away racing in Europe. He came back into British racing in the GT final round at Brands last year, impressed Andrew Howard, and so a deal done. He's spent some time in German GT4 and racing in the VLN, so he's done a lot of miles and now putting that to good use in British GT racing. So good to see Tom Wood going well. Down towards the S's they go, and this car is 8th overall, leading its class. And to the Melbourne hairpin it goes. Now, I was getting worried earlier on about the state of the Nick Jones-Sven Muller Porsche. What's left of it has been swept, I think, into the garage. Broom in hand. Bryn can tell us more.
Yeah, I haven't got a broom in hand, just FYI, I don't do any sort of manual work like that, but I just spoke to Nick Jones and he's just sort of raised his eyebrows. Sven came in, they looked at the car, had a cracked splitter, and they said they're so far back, really, they're not completely sure it's safe, so decided to pull the car. There was no gain in them staying out there, so disappointment for Nick and for Sven, but I'm sure they'll dust themselves off and come again next time.
Indeed so, yeah. So, Bryn, thanks. That car damage that really didn't need to be done, did it? We saw that moment between the Porsche and the McLaren, and it was needless.
Yeah, it was overly aggressive by the McLaren. I've just seen on the board here, car 14, Chris Salkeld, pit stop procedure will be investigated after the race.
Okay.
So that's going to be, yeah, that'll be sorted after the race, I suppose.
Yeah, we knew the team manager had been summoned to the stewards, but there's clearly more that needs looking at, and it will take longer to get the right outcome, give all the evidence due consideration. Seb Morris goes through Redgate there and lets Ollie Webb go by. That car is currently 3rd in GT4. Now, Seb Morris is 13 seconds back from Charlie Robertson. Robertson has a 5-second penalty, but even so, that's not enough to reverse the places. And a bit of a twitch under braking there.
Yeah, that caught him out, didn't it? But you're right. So it's game on, but you need to start making that progress now because there's not too long left now.
It needs to be on in capitals, doesn't it?
Indeed.
It needs to be very on. So there is the Endurance Cup Pro-Am lead car, 3rd in GT4 in the race, but leading in Pro-Am in the Endurance Cup, which is the GT4 Championship over these 2- and 3-hour races, which has, if you like, it's an independent entry. So there is a category win on the cards in the Endurance Cup, at least for Seb and for Ed. That will be his first British GT success, Ed McDermott, so that would be something to cheer for. In GT4 Silver, Josh Miller has taken over from Aidan Neate, and this car doing still a really nice job. Now in GT4 terms, it's his 3rd, 4th, 5th, but leading the Silvers.
Yeah, and how far off the podium is he right now? It's quite a gap, isn't it? I mean, that pit stop penalty of 24 seconds for a silver-silver combo is a really big one. I guess to equalise the fact that you've got an extra silver in the car instead of a bronze, but yeah, that's a massive deficit in the pit stop. Every race as well, you're going to be 24 seconds worse off.
So Josh Miller, who is 19, Aidan Neate he took over from 18. That's the youngest driver combination in the race. Fascinating fact, 37. They go through the hairpin. There you've got number 41, which is now Will Burns at the wheel of it, coming down towards the hairpin and having got ahead of Chris Salkeld, pulling away. Out of the Melbourne hairpin it goes. Kian Jewis turns through, looking as though a Mercedes could be on for the win. A Barwell Lamborghini, there is one, has won the last 3 Donington races, but right now it's advantage Mercedes. Bit of a twitch there at McLean's, although the gap at the start of this lap was under a second again.
Pressure's still on, but we're at the stage of the stint now where Jewis probably believes he can do it, because initially when you start getting that pressure and you think, right, I've got 40 minutes of this to endure, it can be a bit overwhelming. But when you've done half of it already successfully, you do start to believe, you start to get that second win, you motivate yourself. And again, if he makes no mistakes, I think the win's on the cards.
True enough. So Kian Jewis into a rhythm now, and he will be mindful of back markers. There are some more cars up the road, and he's going to have to fend through the traffic really to the very end of the race. In the first sector of this lap, he was quicker by thousandths than Sandy Mitchell. In the second sector, he was quicker by about 0.6 than Sandy Mitchell. So that Mercedes seemingly well suited to Donington Park, and they always have gone well around here, the Mercedes AMGs. Through he goes, and the gap is indeed back up to 1.6 seconds. It's all rather elasticated, this, but they're resigned smiles, I would say, at Barwell, not natural smiles.
Yeah, second's still good as well. On the opening round, perfect start to the well, not perfect, but nearly perfect start to the championship. And of course they'll be gunning for first, but you know, you don't want to, at a very low risk, he's not going to send it from a second back, and maybe this is as close as he can get with the dirty air and stuff. But as you said earlier, the Mercedes are always a strong pick at Donington Park, the Lambo as well. Great cars over a championship because they're 7 or 8 out of 10 in most scenarios, in the wet, on low grip situations, high grip, in the dry, hot temps, and that's why usually a Lambo or a Merc wins British GT.
Look at that circuit map at the bottom right. You can see the 3 sectors and the car that has done the best sector time of the race. Sandy Mitchell's Lamborghini in sectors 1 and 2, but sector 3 to a 2C's Mercedes, but it's the one in 3rd place, Maxi Goetz's car. So in none of the sectors is the lead car the outright fastest. But then you scratch your head because Max Goetz is now 7 seconds just behind Sandy Mitchell in 2nd place. So number 18 Mercedes has just faded out of the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, the Lambo clearly very good in the medium-high speed, the Mercedes better in the low speed with that front engine weight distribution, allowing it to turn in those low speed scenarios. So, yeah, it's good to see the strengths and the weaknesses of the different cars.
But if one 2C's Mercedes can do this, Kean Jewis, why can't the other car? Okay, have they done something different on setup? Do we now think Kean Jewis can walk on water? You know, what's going on? What do we learn from this?
Well, yeah, it could well be the driver. But what I've established in my experience with GT racing is although there's 2 Lamborghinis or 2 Mercedes, they're never quite the same. They have different characteristics. You know, one engine might be slightly better, one car might be slightly better. So there could be that at play as well. It's hard to say watching from where we're watching without the data and the video to review. But yeah, the pace is the pace though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it does give extra kudos, doesn't it, to Kean Jewis?
Yeah, doing a great job.
You're in the same team, the same stint as a Mercedes factory driver, and he has not seen your car for laps because he is so far behind you.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to be doing. Yeah.
And so is this man, Jack Brown. He leads GT4, carrying on where he left off last year, and the gap is 7 seconds to Charlie Robertson, and in real terms it's 7 plus 5 because of the penalty that will go to the BM at the end of the race. So Jack Brown now has a easier ride perhaps than expected in GT4. He's just got to tick off the laps. It's interesting as well, isn't it, that with the right drivers, a Pro-Am entry is a better bet for success than Silver because you have a shorter pit stop, and if you've got the pace to negate the speed of the Silvers, then your quid's in.
I think the Silver penalty for the pit stop is huge. Like, you know, that's a massive amount of time in a short space of time, if you see what I mean. So, yeah, I think that's the key thing with choosing the driver selection is, you know, do you want to suffer that massive penalty? Is Silver worth that much track time? Yeah.
The first sector, which is from the start line to about here, down through the crane and curves, in a GT4 car, is between 20 and 22 seconds. So that's less than that Silver pit stop. So a third of the lap, you know, the first sector is less than that pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's a massive amount of time.
So this is Max Goetz going now up through McLean's corner. This is the run to Coppice. Goetz with traffic ahead. He's now over 7 seconds back from Sandy Mitchell. Talked about that first sector and the order of top times within sector 1. You've got a Lamborghini, you've got a McLaren, you've got a Porsche, a Mercedes AMG and another McLaren. Great variety. Just look how close the time. I know it's only a short part of the lap, but you're talking thousands, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's effectively one corner, isn't it? Because the turn 2 and turn 3 are flat out, so it depends how good your entry, apex and exit of T1 was. And clearly the Lambo in Sandy's hands is very good through there.
Indeed so. And again, interesting that Kean Jewis, even though he's got this big lead, or had a big lead, it looks slightly less to the eye, you know, isn't the absolute fastest through that sector either, but everything is just falling into play. 2 seconds clear now. There is the aforementioned Maxi Goetz, goes through, still being chased by Marvin Kirchhofer, and that gap is 2 seconds as well. There, 5th is Sam Neary. Bit lonely, all on his own, Sam. He's not catching and he's not being caught.
Yeah, I think just looking at Kirchhofer and the gap sort of falling away from him there, I think maybe the McLaren doesn't have the raw pace of the Lambo and the Mercedes, you know. Just seeing the gap just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's unlike Marvin to lose that amount of time over a race stint. So, yeah, maybe the McLaren will come on strong at round 2.
Down now into the old hairpin goes Sam Neary, picking his way past Charlie Robertson, Stuart Hall's Aston just up the road. And, you know, I mentioned that the number 17 McLaren had gone into the race. Well, it's back in the pit, so it's only done 2 laps, I'm afraid now. It's still got its problems. Sam Neary then accelerates to Coppice. He's now 9 seconds back from Marvin Kirchhofer. Actually, his last lap was slightly quicker, but you might be able to put that down to traffic as Cian Jewis accelerates out of the Melbourne hairpin. Still looking strong, isn't he? 2 seconds was the gap last time. Sandy Mitchell, though, was quicker in Sector 1, and Cian Jewis was quicker this time in Sector 2.
I'm seeing a lot of cars get track limits now, especially at turn 7, so the uphill right-hander McLaren's. And I suppose with the pros at the wheel, that they know they've got the track limits to use up, so why not? Why not gain that little advantage to try and close the gap to the car in front?
Alex Martin grins as he watches his car heading for second place. Gap down then, last lap. So, as I say, it is elasticated. Some laps it stretches, some laps it shrinks. And Sandy Mitchell, one constant here, he's not giving up.
Indeed. And I think, a lot of viewers at this stage will be thinking, we need a safety car to really spice this up. Yeah.
What can you trigger from here? What can you lob out of the window onto the road with the debris?
I've got a banana skin somewhere.
That'll do, that'll do. Sandy Mitchell out of Coppice then, and up the road ahead of Cian Jewis. Look, 2 back markers. Now, is this going to be an opportunity? It all depends where the 2 leading GT3 cars encounter the traffic, doesn't it? There's a Porsche, there's a McLaren, and a BMW. So Cian Jewis has caught up to Chris Salkeld. Should be able to pick him off on the run down to the Melbourne hairpin, and Sandy Mitchell will not be able to. He'll have to wait the other side of the corner.
Yeah, and he's come up to lap another GT3 in the form of that McLaren that's been struggling all weekend. And just looking at the chicane as well, the amount of gravel and dirt offline, extra concentration has to go in. Right, in that particular area of the circuit, I've got to stay online. Otherwise, you get the marbles, you get the gravel, and you can definitely suffer, a big time loss in the following corners. You just have no grip.
So lights are flashing. Cian Jewis gets up the inside of Ollie Webb, and yes, Ollie, very experienced driver, gives him room, lets him go. The gap was 1.2 seconds between Mercedes and Lamborghini. Sandy Mitchell there in the background.
Drive-through penalty, pit stop infringement. Car 1414, drive-through penalty.
Okay, that's the Chris Salkeld BMW, and it's for the engine running with an unoccupied car in the pit lane. So they left the engine running while it was empty and the refueling was going on. This is Sandy Mitchell then diving through on the inside.
Yeah, and most of these cars have an auto kill system, so as soon as you park up, they'll kill the engine so you can do your pit stop, and then the driver getting in will obviously start the engine before pulling away. So maybe he's forgot to press that auto kill function. And a penalty it sounds harsh, but I suppose the rules are the rules. And that's it.
But it's little things like that, little processes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's not just about being fast in GT. You need to be well-rounded and understanding the rules and the regs, and how to go racing safely, because ultimately these rules are put in place for safety. So, yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about the pressures for being the incoming or the outgoing driver. Well, there's a mistake possibly made by the incoming that's going to have consequences. Brandon Templeton, if indeed it were him that didn't press that button to kill the engine.
Maybe a little bit of inexperience.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's his first season.
Indeed so. And it's a lesson learned. If he did make that mistake, he won't make it again, will he? As through goes Maxi Gertz then now, dropping away inexorably from Sandy Mitchell. There's just something about that specific 2Cs Mercedes that has never quite had the same oomph as the sister car. Having said that, it's third, which ain't half bad, but it's never been quite on the same pace as the sister number 42 entrant.
Yeah, and it's tight. I mean, if you look at the pro qualifying yesterday, that they were very close. They were within a couple of tenths. It really has been the difference in the AM drivers that's been the big differentiator for those 2 Mercedes. But definitely Jewis in this stint has, I think, outperformed what we expected. That's for sure.
No, he's certainly been impressive, Cian Jewis, and every lap he spends, he's only going to get better in that car as he becomes more used to it. The same, in a sense, is true of Phil Keane here in the GT4 spec Mercedes. Don't they look different, GT4 versus GT3, and how much more aero a GT3 car has? I know that's the McLaren passing, not a Mercedes, but even so, you can tell each class very, very clearly, can't you? Far more standard-looking cars are in GT4. Martin Plowman, that's just gone through, up into 9th place in the Mark Smith McLaren that lost a bit of ground and then reclaimed ground early on in the race. Phil Keane's got this car by the scruff of the neck, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. Car 24 track limits, 3rd warning, so he's got 1 left before I believe it's a drive-through penalty after 4 track limit cuts, so he'll have to be careful.
24 is Ollie Webb in the Greystone GT McLaren that you were saying was a bit troubled. Andre Borodin still getting himself really up to speed, I think. He raced elsewhere last year, back into British GT. Ollie Webb, clearly the quicker of the two drivers, but Andre Borodin back in British GT. Good to have him on the grid as Martin Plowman comes down to the S's. He's chasing after Tom Wood, but he's got 11 seconds and change to make up. This is Cian Jewis. The gap at the start of this lap was 9/10 of a second, so again, the elastic has shrunk.
Yeah, Sandy would just be thinking, make a mistake, man, or, you know, the traffic, please fall my way, just allow something to happen. He probably gets within a second, the dirty air kicks in, and then he can't do anything else from that moment onwards. So, despite the fact his raw pace might be slightly better, can't do anything about it.
Gets past the Josh Miller Lotus, comes into the S's, and a good exit onto the Melbourne loop now. Little kink in the road, over the brow, down to the hairpin. Arguably, this gap at the end of that could be less than it's been for quite a long time. 9/10 at the start of the lap, and Sandy Mitchell's had a good lap here in the traffic, hasn't he? Accelerates now up towards Goddard's. Let's just see what it's going to be between the two at the end of the lap. But this looks like a really good push from Sandy Mitchell. We've only got 10 minutes to go. Time has flown. And maybe this is why Sandy Mitchell now has turned up the wick, because he knows he's running out of time. Goes across the line. It's still less than a second. 9/10 of a second. That's all that splits them.
He's got one trick left in the bag that he hasn't used yet. Flashing with the headlights. That might work.
See if that'll just distract Cian Jewis enough. That's a bit last resort, I think, isn't it? But you
Desperation
never know.
kicks in.
It's worth a punt. Here they come, downhill. So right now, as they sweep their way up to Schwantz Curve, they are clear of back markers for a little while. They're not going to catch anybody for a few more corners, and the clock's ticking on down. Sector 1, the quicker car was the Mercedes, but only by about 21 thousandths of a second. So they are so evenly matched. It is not true.
Yeah, and looking at P3, P4, P5, there's a bit of a field spread now, apart from the battle for P1. So this is the main battle to focus on for the rest of the race, I think.
And there Sandy Mitchell skims the tyre stack as he goes through the mid part of the Fogarty S's down to the Melbourne hairpin once again. Cian Jewis will be feeling the pressure. The 2Cs Motorsport engineers will be on the radio to him, letting him know how many minutes to go, what the gap is, what his pace is like relative to Sandy Mitchell's, who closes under braking, it seems, for the left-hander of Goddard's now. 2Cs, the Anglo-Bahraini team operating this car. Very experienced squad from British GT, from World Challenge Europe, from Asian Le Mans over the line, and it's still 9/10 of a second. It seems odd, doesn't it? Sandy Mitchell's car has done the fastest lap of the race and yet can't catch the leader. And here, look, you can see how committed he is into the S's, and just catches the task.
That's absolutely fine. That's just controlled aggression. You know, he's using every inch available to him. And as I said yesterday in qualifying, you know, he's one of them drivers that uses the sim a lot, and track usage-wise uses every available inch to him. So that's why he's so fast.
Chris Needell with a headset on from Barwell Motorsport. The commercial director, Alex Martin, stood with him watching Sandy Mitchell, who really has, I would suggest, over the last couple of laps, gone up a notch. Now he knows that he's running out of time, so he's tried to use the traffic. He's tried waiting for Cian to make a mistake. It's not fallen into his lap, so now it is going to have to be everything on the line. Throw everything at this, and if he wasn't pushing flat out before, and I'm sure he was, then he's got to go just as hard as he possibly can.
Every lap is tough area. Yeah. And I think I said earlier, P2's a great start, but you know, if it is going to be these two fighting for the championship, this could be, even at round 1, championship critical later in the season. So if you've got an opportunity to get past, you know, this could be crucial.
Back marker up the road. It's a GT4 Mercedes. It's a GT3 Mercedes leading the race outright. And is Cian Jewis going to catch the number 30 Mercedes of Phil Keane at Redgate? Yes, he is, and he's going to dive to the inside. The gap again, 9/10 of a second, and so Sandy Mitchell not close enough to go through there. Again, it's the road opens up, doesn't it, for the leader? The luck, in a sense, with the traffic is riding with Cian Jewis. Sandy Mitchell has to do it through the high-speed, daunting, heart-in-mouth Craner curves, whereas Cian Jewis goes through under braking for a corner.
Yeah, at this late stage of the stint as well, you know, other factors might come into play, potentially, you know, driver fitness. If you've been slacking over the winter and you're an hour into a stint, you might start to feel that pain now. Not saying that these two will, it's just one of those possibilities. But yeah, I think the gap's stagnated. He can't get any closer. The dirty air is just too much around Donington to get any closer.
And there isn't enough of a difference, is there, in the pace of the cars?
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
They are evenly matched, and they are absolutely at the top of their game, these two. So Cian Jewis, beautifully controlled through the S's. Much underrated driver, sort of flew under the radar when he was winning in Carrera Cup. Charles Dawson watches on, looking nervous, and they've had everything thrown at them in this race, haven't they? They've had a couple of safety car periods, full course yellows that have interrupted things, so they've been able to bounce back from it. The gap, though, to the eye looking a little bit closer. Sandy Mitchell there, braked really, really late, coming into Goddard's. Off the corner they come. 70 laps are done, 71 this time. That's Charles Dawson. Is he going to be a British GT race winner in 6 minutes' time? Well, the gap is still 9/10ths. It comes down by thousandths. It doesn't come down by tenths. And Stuart Hall's Aston ahead is the next car to negotiate.
He is looking nervous, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, it would be a good effort to win your first outing in GT3 and British GT. So, yeah, and he's very close to it, 5 minutes, and that was a bit of bad traffic for Jewis, but still, Sandy's not quite close enough to make a move.
No, but the Aston didn't so much get in the way. It was just wrong place, wrong time, and you can see how much closer they have now got, because in the first sector, that was 3/10 gained by Sandy Mitchell. So that one back marker, just being where he didn't really need to be for Cian at the wrong time, has done enough to bring the gap down a touch. And Alex Martin thinks, okay, we might have a chance here.
Yeah, and I think you can visibly see just Sandy using more of the track, which is probably why he's got that tiny bit more pace. Again,
Yeah.
It's not enough to make the difference and to break the dirty air, but it still allows them to maintain very close.
And another car ahead. And look, they're absolutely nose to tail under braking. It is Charlie Robinson's BMW ahead. Cian Jewis makes the move coming off the corner. Sandy Mitchell may have got in a little bit too deep, because as he comes up the other side, the Mercedes has broken away fractionally. Mitchell clears the slower BMW, gets right onto the tail. 4 minutes and change on the clock as they come through at the end of lap 72. We are certainly not done yet, because the gap is down to 0.6 of a second now. But Cian Jewis accelerates towards Redgate. The next car that he's going to have to sort out will be the Chris Solkel BMW. There it is.
This might, in the old hairpin, this might jeopardise Jewis quite bad, actually. Just looking at the way this might concertina. We shall see in a minute. Yeah, here we go.
Here they come, and Cian Jewis has to lift because he doesn't want to get past it there. Back onto the power. Yeah, Sandy Mitchell commits to the outside. He's almost there, but that marker cleared. Clear road for a little while. Sandy Mitchell is close, not thinking about making a move there, or is he? Tries to tighten the line coming off the corner. 3 3/4 minutes to go, that's all. Cian Jewis, nervous in the lead, but standing his ground. A little bit more curb, bitten by the Lamborghini, but the Mercedes, look, gets a good drive off the corner.
Yeah, that's key. Another back marker coming up, which may get them involved at the hairpin. So, yeah, there's a lot of traffic to come in the final stage of this race, which could be the difference.
Absolutely so. And, of course, the flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line. Once 2 hours are up, so, you know, if they squeeze through with seconds to spare, it's another full lap. Mitchell looks to the inside line. Oh, so close down to the Melbourne hairpin. He was good here a lap ago. But McLaren gets out of the way then as they make that run up now towards Goddard's. It's Jack Brown, the GT4 leader. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this, I will offer you, as they come off Goddard's now. Absolutely nose to tail. Last time that margin was 0.639 of a second. This time it's 0.499 of a second. But still, Cian Jewis stands his ground in the lead of the race.
I don't think they're going to catch any GT4s anymore. I think that's it. Maybe car 41. But with 2 laps to go, I think this might be it. So that might have saved Jewis's race.
Okay. So Sandy Mitchell with, we reckon, 1 more lap to go at the end of this. Let's see. Bounces it wide over the curb. He is absolutely flat out. There is nothing more he can wring out of that car. You can almost hear the Lamborghini whimpering now. It's been given such a tough ride over the course of this stint. And yet that Mercedes continues to lead. It was half a second between them at the start of the lap, and I would suggest the gap has gone up a little bit, although the Lamborghini good on the brakes, but it's in a straight line where that Mercedes just seems to build the gap again.
There's one bit of data I'd love to see right now, and it's the heart rates of both drivers, and I'd just love to see over the stint how that's progressively gone up and up and up and up and up.
When you say both drivers, do you mean these two or the co-drivers watching?
Everyone.
I mean, Charles Dawson doesn't know where to look. Sandy Mitchell flinging the car, again, through the S's, late on the brakes down to the Melbourne hairpin. He's close by about a length, but not close enough to think about a move. And again, quicker onto the power, earlier onto the power, it's Cian Jewis. Alex Martin understands totally how much effort Sandy Mitchell has put into this, and Charles Dawson almost saying his prayers there, doesn't want to look at the television, doesn't want to look at the data, doesn't know where to look, and through they come with 2 more to go. Yes, they've just squeezed through with 2 more laps to go, just over a lap time left in it, so they're going to get 2 more out of the race as their 78 rounds Redgate. Sandy Mitchell, he wants more laps, doesn't he, because it's more opportunity.
Yeah, and they're going to catch, now there's 2 more laps, it was very close between them either doing 2 or 1.
Yeah.
They're going to catch 2 more GT4s, which, as I say, that could be the differentiator here. Just depends where they get them. I think it's going to be towards the end of this lap, either the hairpin or the last corner.
Blimey. Okay, just where you don't want, slow parts of the circuit.
Exactly,
right.
yeah.
Out of McLean's, they turn. Sector 1, quicker was Jewis. How much was he quicker by? 0.02 of a second.
Exactly that. It's close. It's close. I think on raw pace, Sandy's using every inch of the track and even more of it than using the gravel on the exit of Coppice there. But into the chicane then. Sandy trying to get a good run. He's probably hoping, right, I hope there's traffic on the horizon, which there is. As you can see here, the McLaren going down into the hairpin.
Here they come onto the brakes, but they've not caught it before the corner, so they ought to be able to zap past in a straight line. Onto the power now, climb out of the Melbourne hairpin.
This will hold them up though.
Yeah, flash of the lights. Cian Jewis goes to the inside. Sandy Mitchell absolutely has to dive bomb up the inside, can't hesitate. Charles Dawson, big intake of breath. Through they come, and they're just going to squeeze through now with about a second on the clock as they go through 1 more lap. But this is it. This is the last lap as they round Redgate with the margin being just under 0.6 of a second. 1 to go.
1 to go and 1 GT4 to go as well. And that's it. I think that is the race right there. You know, fortunately, the traffic dropped at the right point. It's actually hindered Sandy more than Jewis, and that might be it.
So it's enough of a gap going to Starkey's Bridge, and Barwell know that Sandy's given it his best shot. Alex says, yeah, well done. But Cian Jewis and Charles Dawson have starred all weekend. It would be cruel in a way if they were not to be the winners of this race, because it has been just an outstanding performance by 2 drivers new to the car, new to the team, new to GT3. They've had to deal with full course yellows and safety cars, and with the best in the business, whether it's been pros or AMs. And onto the Grand Prix loop for the last time. Cian Jewis leads the way. Sandy Mitchell is doing the chasing, and he's still not given up, but there are 2 corners to go for Cian Jewis, who sets up the 2Cs Motorsport Mercedes. Make that 1 corner to go as he exits the Melbourne hairpin. It is job done. British GT honours then in our first round of the championship. 2 hours of Donington will go the way of 2Cs Motorsports Mercedes AMG GT3. Charles Dawson started. Cian Jewis brings it home for a fantastic win at Donington. Second to Sandy Mitchell and to Alex Martin. But what a performance, whether it was in qualifying or the race, from Cian Jewis and Charles Mitchell. Cian Jewis and Charles Dawson. Sandy Mitchell takes second with the Lamborghini of Alex Martin, and a rather distant third. Maxi Gertz has come home, partnered by Kevin Say. Fourth to Marvin Kirchhofer and Morgan Tilbrook. And your GT4 winner is Jack Brown, the reigning champion, teaming up with Mark Warren and starting in style as Rob Collard there goes to support his teammates in the Barwell garage. Where do you start with the superlatives? Charles Dawson or Cian Jewis? Because they were both outstanding.
Both. Overall, as a package, they deserve the victory. You know, they nailed everything. Nailed quali, nailed the race starts, nailed all the safety car restarts, nailed the pit stop. Had good raw pace. Maybe Sandy had better, but overall, as a package, they deserve that. And yeah, what a special feeling to win your first race in GT3. Fortunately, I know how that feels, and yeah, he's well deserved that.
For Mahiki Racing, it's going to be honours in GT4 Silver for Aidan Neates and Josh Miller, and they are going to be 5th overall in GT4. So Charles Dawson saying, I think I have to go to the podium now, which is all the way down there. And the 2Cs team sort of breathe a sigh of relief, because that was intense pressure. And Jack Brown, great start to his GT4 year. You've also got to respect what Sandy Mitchell did in that stint, because for the best part of an hour, he tried everything. Qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap.
Constant pressure, and he also deserved the victory.
Yeah.
It was razor tight between the top 2, but fine margins is British GT.
Great start to the season, a proper endurance race as well. So the class winners, Pro-Am in GT3, Cian Jewis, Charles Dawson, Silver Am, Andrew Howard and Tom Wood. GT4 Pro-Am, Jack Brown and Mark Warren. The Silvers, they were conquered by Aidan Neate and by Josh Miller. The Endurance Cup Pro-Am, won by Ed McDermott with Seb Morris, bravo to them. And the Silvers in the Endurance Cup, Jamie Autumn and Will Burns. Charles Dawson and Cian Jewis atop the result sheets after 77 drama-filled laps of Donington. Alex Martin, Sandy Mitchell second from Kevin Say and Maxi Gertz. Marvin Kirchhofer fourth with Morgan Tilbrook. The Nearys were fifth, Richard and Sam. Matt Topham and Hugo Cook sixth. So they were able to battle up despite that earlier spin. Seventh, Simon Orange and Marcus Clutton. Eighth was Tom Wood and Andrew Howard to win in the Silver Am contest. Ninth, Martin Plowman and Mark Smith. And 10th, Mike Price and Callum McLeod. GT4 then, taken by Mark Warren and Jack Brown from Ravi Ramyeen and Charlie Robertson. Even with the penalty, they took second, clear of Seb Morris and Ed McDermott. Phil Keane with John Curry came next. And then Aidan Neate, Josh Miller, class winners, fifth in GT4. And you can see that there were a number of teams who had their own problems not getting to the finish. But they'll bounce back because at the end of the month, we have an extra hour. Silverstone will be the next stop for British GT, the Blue Ribbon race, the Silverstone 500, the 3-hour race around the full Grand Prix circuit with an even bigger entry promise for that. And with 3 mandatory pit stops, a fascinating race for strategy. Cian Jewis steps from the winning car. A very happy man and a very deserving winner. Brilliant effort, wasn't it, in that second stint?
It certainly was. He'll be relieved, I think, after a pretty intense stint. 40 minutes with a Lamborghini right up your backside is no easy feat, but yeah, well-deserved victory for them.
Team making its way down to join him around the presentation Parc Fermé area. So for the moment, it's all a bit flat for Cian. There's nobody really there to embrace him and congratulate him. But it was a great job done, and Maxi Gertz must be thinking, blimey, you're good. Sandy Mitchell walks over to say, well done, tried everything. And Max Gertz will appreciate that. There is a delighted Dawson. Charles Dawson joins Cian Jewis. We knew both of them were quick, but did we anticipate that they were going to be race winners? Well, a great result. Bryn can join in the celebrations. 2 first-time winners, Bryn, in British GT.
It doesn't get much better than that, does it? Charles, I was reading notes earlier on an interview that you did where you said you knew you were going to take a bit of time before you could get up to pace in GT3. Well, it doesn't take much time for you, does it?
No, I think it's a testament to learning off people like Cian in the time we've had, and you know, 2Cs know how to put a good car together. They've been doing this for years, so yeah, you know, we're fortunate for doing what we're doing, and doing it with some of the best people. I think really helps bring me on. So yeah.
I think you probably need to get some new fingernails, by the way, because you were chewing them a fair bit. Cian, looking at that, I mean, Sandy was pressuring you all the way, and there were GT4 cars coming at you and coming at you and coming at you.
Yeah, you know, it was hard to know. It's the first race of the season. You don't know how much you've got left at the end of the race, so you're trying to manage the tyres, and, you know, it's a lottery if you catch a GT4 in the right place or not. But we managed it really well, and big thank you to the team and Charles. You know, he's done an amazing job this weekend.
For yourself, though, I mean, learning curves, it's always a learning curve, isn't it? But yourself, you have to push, you have to push, you have to push. And you saw how the safety car came in a number of times, and you know, that put pressure on you. When you had gaps, Charles, you had to then lose those gaps and start again.
Yeah, you know, we come out with a lovely 5 seconds, and then it went full course yellow, and I got stuck behind 2 GT4s, you know, and then straight back down to nothing. So, you know, you've got to be ready to go at any point in the race.
Well done, both of you. You won at the first opportunity. Congratulations. And I'm going to take a little stroll off past you here. Brown, if you can come with me, we're going to go and find GT4 winners who are just across the other way and just trying to hunt them down. In fact, yes, I can see them just over here. Ah, yes. I see Jack Brown still got his paraphernalia on, and I can just see next to him Mark Warren smiling as you'd imagine he would. Let's grab a quick word then from these guys. And Ollie is here. I can see our camera guy just here as well. So we've got a full complement of people. Here's some baseball caps as well. Jack, you're well used to this. You put a baseball cap on and delivering a message of how that went for you. It was, well, I'm not even say uneventful, but it was a good race from the very off.
Yeah, you know, Mark did such a fantastic job at the beginning. Unfortunately, the safety car messed it up for us a little bit. But when I came out of the pits, we came out full smoke, and yeah, we got the job done. The pace was amazing. The team did a great job, so thank you to all involved.
Jack knows what it's like to be in this team and to win. For yourself, Mark, it's a fresh chapter.
Yeah, amazing. It's thanks to Optimum Motorsport. Car was unbelievable. I could just get my head down and push right from the start. I had clean air. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Obviously, safety car was a bit frustrating, but we managed to not get flustered when the Lotus came through. Knew that we'd get them back in the pit stops and hand over to Jack with a little bit of brakes left.
1 down, 8 to go. Well done.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
Top job by Mark Warren and Jack Brown, and again proof of Pro-Am being able to conquer the silvers. You haven't got necessarily the pace. The way that the penalty for the silver crews goes in favour of Pro-Am drivers does make for fascinating GT4 battles, perhaps more so over the longer races, but really good effort by Jack Brown and by Mark Warren. More silverware for Andrew Howard. He and Tom Wood have come through to win in Silver Am in GT3, Bryn.
He's very happy indeed, Andrew. Well done there. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and it's brilliant. I've always said you only need 2 cars to race, and thank goodness that the Honda was out there and having a race. So, yeah, no, really good.
Tom did a great job for you as well when he got in.
Phenomenal job. I mean, it's his second GT3 at this level, and he's stuck with all the boys, and he's stuck in them, and we got an 8th overall, which is really impressive.
8th overall, but it's the Silver Am win that you take there as well. Do you look at the overall position?
No. No, not unless we do really well, in which case, obviously, you pull it out the bag. But like, I've been doing this championship so long, all different levels of championships take different times. I think they've got 5 coming to Silverstone, which is exciting. We all want to race cars, but as I say, you only need 1 car to race. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then Tom did a great job as well.
Silver Am winner, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Character Andrew Howard, 61 years of age, great enthusiast, came out of Mini Nelia Racing and has been a British GT champion and still loves his GT racing. He's our voice as the UK through Motorsport UK on the FIA's Driver Grading Commission, and a very accomplished racer himself. Very quick Am is Andrew Howard, the man behind the Beechdean Ice Cream Company and the Sides Ice Cream brand. So class win for Andrew Howard, Tom Wood. In the new GT4 Endurance Cup, honours for Seb Morris, and I think I'm right in saying his first victory in British GT finally for Ed McDermott, who has had a really good run in that, and they are deserving winners of the new Endurance Cup.
Well, certainly right in saying that. Ed, a brilliant performance of you. Well done. It seems like it's been a long time, this result.
Yeah, Donington's never been that kind to me. It is actually probably my favourite circuit, but yeah, just really nice to get in amongst it today. I feel, you know, working with Seb, and obviously I'm still working with Mikey Broadhurst as well as a coach, and just, yeah, collectively it's really bringing me on massively, and I feel so confident, and Seb drove an incredible race. How he's not in a factory seat, I can't believe it, but, you know, here we are, and here's the man.
You said at Media Day to me, said that you really wanted to enjoy yourself this year. Could you achieve the level of enjoyment when you're in the car?
Yeah, it was a nice, enjoyable drive, to be honest. It was a bit lonely. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of time in the pits. We'll have to find out why, but it was a lonely old race. But it was good to have Phil sort of catching me, and I was pulling on him as a good reference, and there's no better reference than Mr. Keane himself.
Endurance Cup, that's, you know, a few races this season. Are you tempted with this result to maybe go for the full season, Ed?
Always tempted is all I'll say, but yeah, we'll have a chat. We'll regroup after the business, and having a 3rd child is going to keep me busy. But yeah, look, it's been an amazing weekend, and like I said, Donington has been really tough for me over the years. I've had some very nearlies here, and yeah, it's just a real pleasure to be doing this with Seb, and we're having a great time as well. That's the main thing. We're here to enjoy it, but we also want to be, you know, right up there getting these overall podiums.
What have you learnt about this man? But you were saying he's a bit like James Hunt in many ways. What have you learnt that you can say on air?
I can say on air, he's genuinely one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Absolute legend. I like his relaxed attitude. It's the same as mine, and we work incredibly well together. We simplify things down, and we actually really enjoy it. And I think with motorsport, people take it far too seriously at times and lose the enjoyment, especially if you're an amateur like Ed. And we've enjoyed it, and we've got results, so it's been great.
Definitely done that. Well, there you go, Adders. You've heard from the drivers. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Bryn. Yeah, serious fun, I think, is how Ed McDermott goes about his racing. And he's deserving of that result. He's a good character.
He is. I met him earlier, and yeah, lovely guy, and he's looking to do a bit of sim training, I think, so I might help him with that.
Ka-ching. Well done. Excellent. So, a great first round of British GT for 2025. A win for Cian Jewis and Charles Dawson. Let's look at how it all happened. Away from the rolling start, it was Charles Dawson aboard the pole position Mercedes AMG who took the advantage. Alex Martin squeezing up on the inside. He had a go for the race lead. That didn't work, but at least he got ahead of Kevin Say to hang on to second place as the cars rounded Redgate and went on to the top of the Craner curves, plunging downhill for the first time. But a demon opening lap by Charles Dawson. He was well clear even as he came through towards the old hairpin. And that just illustrated the pace the car had all race long. Alex Martin ran second, Kevin Say in third, and there was some good racing further back. Mark Smith's number 9 McLaren had dropped places early, but then he regrouped and started to chip his way back up the order, getting past Nick Jones, Matt Topham having had a spin to the back of the pack. Mark Smith then tried to sort out Mike Price's McLaren coming down towards the S's. He did it, he got by and carried on the push, getting away. From the back of the grid almost on the penultimate row, Aidan Neate had a good start in his stint in the Mahiki Lotus and put himself up into the lead of the GT4 class, only to have to lose time in the pits by being a silver entry and serving a regulation longer pit stop time. The sister car from Mahiki ended up being Petrobelli. Giacomo got into the back of it, put it in the gravel, and that gave us a safety car period which bunched up the field. And on the restart, the cars accelerated away once more, still with it being Mercedes ahead of Lamborghini. Then we had a full course yellow for this tyre stack to be put back in place after Nick Jones clobbered it when he was crowded out by Mike Price. It meant that the cars were able to battle their way back into the mix, the other side of the full course yellow, and as they did so, Cian Jewis led the way. Sandy Mitchell charged after him. He brought the gap down, but never quite close enough to be able to make the move. They finished almost nose to tail, but a first GT victory in GT3 for Charles Dawson, first British GT win for Cian Jewis as well. A brilliant start to the season for 2Cs Motorsport, and the next stop for the British GT Championship at the end of April is Silverstone.